Chapter 2897. Chun Zhao didn't even tell Fei Lai. He didn't tell her that Mordery was still alive. They weren't close, but Fei Lai still knew about Mordery. She'd seen Mordery twice at Chun Zhao's party. At that time, Mordery came and left the party quietly. He'd only seen Chun Zhao and Fei Lai and then given them his blessings. So, Fei Lai only had an impression of Mordery. Chun Zhao didn't tell Fei Lai about Mordery's death. This was out of consideration for Mordery's safety. It wasn't that he didn't trust Fei Lai, but no one could guarantee that they wouldn't spill the beans. There was even a certain risk in Mordery telling Chun Zhao his information. If news of Mordery being alive was leaked, the consequences would be severe. Chun Zhao had to be careful. There was no room for regret. Fei Lai only knew that it was a friend's wedding this weekend. But since Chun Zhao had accepted the wedding invitation, he wouldn't be a normal friend. In the morning, Chun Zhao drove to the supernatural organization's headquarters after breakfast. When he arrived, he realized that Gaia and the others were all listless. "What's wrong with you guys?" Chun Zhao looked at the people before him. "Don't mention it," Gaia said, annoyed. "We got it wrong. It wasn't a first night awakening. The ones last night were at least second night awakenings. I think it might even be third night awakenings." Just then, West walked in. "President, who's not here yet?" "Giselle, she's injured." "Is her injury serious?" "A little, but it's not fatal. She was too careless." "Okay, take a seat. Today, we'll talk about the recent situation." Chun Zhao glanced at everyone. "It's just the beginning." "Beginning? President, you mean it's going to be more serious?" "Chun, are you talking about the abnormal awakening nights in the past 2 days?" "Yes and no," Chun Zhao said seriously. "What organization's plotting?" Moore asked curiously. "No, it's the era," Chun Zhao said. "The great era is coming." "No, more accurately, it's already here. 2 nights ago, the world changed and the spiritual chi tide arrived." "The storm 2 nights ago was a sign?" West asked, surprised. "You could say that." Chun Zhao nodded. "When I stopped the storm, I might have accidentally broken the world barrier. Then, the spiritual chi of the world returned. As the density of the spiritual chi increases, more and more people will awaken. The difficulty of the night of awakening will also increase exponentially. We can't use the past standards and common sense as a benchmark anymore. In other words, from now on, all the nights of awakening will be as difficult as last night." West frowned. This was not good news. They were now considered a relatively powerful organization. But if even they find it difficult, then this situation is likely to cause unrest, panic, and unrest in society. What happened last night was just the minimum. As time passes, the difficulty will only increase. Then what do we do? The good news is that the difficulty of cultivation will be greatly reduced. With a 1% increase in the concentration of spiritual energy, the strength of a spiritualist will increase by at least 10%. The path and speed of your improvement will also become easier. The bottlenecks that restricted you in the past will be easily broken. Currently, not many people know about this news. There are less than 5 people in the entire world, so you can use this period of time to quickly improve your strength. Of course, combat is a very good way to improve. So, my suggestion is to try your best to accept the SOS missions on the night of awakening. Also, the reason why you were in such a sorry state last night was not only because of your strength, but also because of your mentality. From today onwards, everyone must be fully equipped when carrying out missions, including you. Gaia. Leader, the large amount of dragon raw materials you stored before can be put to good use now. But I might not be able to handle everything by myself. So I want to accept a disciple or 2. Besides nurturing our association's reserve alchemists, they can also be my assistants." "Sure," Chun Zhao agreed. "You can find any disciples you want. You can let them be our outer members first." Chun Zhao and West's original plan was to keep the current members and run the supernatural organization with a small number of elites. Everyone could take charge of an area, but the times had changed. It wasn't that they couldn't take the path of a small number of elites, but it was necessary to take in a certain number of members. For example, Ruan Faxben. In the past, he mainly focused on research. But now, he didn't just need to research and improve himself. He also needed to make equipment for the other members. He didn't have 3 heads and 6 arms, so he couldn't do both. While the others focused on cultivation, he also needed to do research. Therefore, it was necessary to take in disciples. West also agreed with Chun Zhao's idea. Also, all official members must enter the Tower of Trials at least 6 times a week in the future. I don't want to be too strict with you, but if you continue to maintain the mentality of the past, all of us may be abandoned by the new era. We now have more resources than others and faster information. I don't ask you to become the best in the world, but at least we can't lose our current status and advantages. Here, no one was willing to be ordinary. Everyone had the desire to win. Even Gaia, who had the best temper, had her own pride. President, we still have 4 nights of awakening tonight. One of them is the second night. West's eyes were filled with worry. Since the first night was more difficult than the second night, the second night might very well be as difficult as the third night. It might even be more difficult than the third night. Where's the second night's awakener? Give me her information. I'll take care of it. She's a physicist. In fact, she's a firm believer in science. She doesn't believe in theology. She thinks that all supernatural phenomena can be explained by science. She was very repulsed when we first met her. It was her husband who found us and asked us to protect his wife. You're a scientist? All right, leave this matter to me. Anyway, they were just protecting her through the second night. They didn't have to change her views. Chen Zhao didn't care what she thought. Actually, if they gathered everyone in the supernatural organization, they should be able to pass through the third night. But this would result in a lack of manpower in other areas. Moreover, the third night was still too early for them. Chapter 2898. Following the address, Chun Zhao came to a high-rise apartment. Chun Zhao also had a few luxurious apartments in such prime locations. However, they were all used for investment. Basically, he wouldn't lose money if he invested here. Chun Zhao didn't make much money from his investments, but at least he broke even. The residents of this kind of apartment were basically no longer in the middle class. They were either celebrities or managers with a high salary, or businessmen with a certain amount of capital. Not all rich people like to live in the remote suburbs. These luxurious apartments all had full-time butlers and managers, as well as a team of security guards. When Chun Zhao entered, he had to show his ID. Chun Zhao came to the 40th floor. After recognizing the number, he pressed the doorbell. A man in his 30s opened the door. He wore glasses and looked gentle. Hello, who are you looking for? Chun Zhao glanced at the name card. Balarinsa Deco, dentist. This is my name card. Are you looking for me? I'm from the Supernatural Organization. Hello, please come in. Balarinsa opened the door. Please sit. Do you want something to drink? Anything. Chun Zhao looked at the decorations and style of the apartment. Balarinsa Deco poured Chun Zhao a glass of water and sat opposite him. How should I address you? You can call me Mr. Chun, Chun Zhao said. Okay, Mr. Chun. Are you the only one from the Supernatural Organization? Or are you just here to talk to me? Someone else will come tonight? Only me. But, am I not clear enough? My wife is the second night. Normal spiritualists can't deal with her. Mr. Deco, you seem to be very familiar with the spiritual world. Chun Zhao looked at Deco. I'm from a family of spiritualists, but I don't have the talent, so I became a dentist. But when I was young, I went to exorcism with my father and uncle many times, so I've had more opportunities to come into contact with the spiritual world. I know what the second night represents. Trust me, I also know what the second night represents. And I'm from the East. To prove his ability, Chun Zhao told him about his background. In the spiritual world, it was indeed important which region one came from. If someone said, "Trust me, I'm from North America," he was afraid that he would be beaten to death. But if Chun Zhao was like that, "I'm from the East," that would be different. At least Balarinsa's eyes lit up. He thought Chun Zhao was just an Asian. He didn't expect Chun Zhao to be from the East. Is Mr. Chun from a faction? I once cultivated in the Celestial Master sect of Longhu Mountain for a period of time and was acknowledged by Celestial Master Zhang. What? Balarinsa Deco had no objections in an instant. What a joke. There's already a supercar. Why would he need a bicycle? Even though he was from the fringe of the supernatural world, He had heard of the celestial master sect of Mount Longhu and the number one person in the supernatural world, Celestial Master Zhang. To be able to obtain celestial teacher Zhang's recognition, one had to possess extraordinary talent. I've dealt with the second knight many times. Chun Zhao didn't even want to say that he'd dealt with the third knight a few times. It was meaningless. Even if he said it, the other party would not believe him. After all, the third knight was a legendary difficulty. Outsiders who weren't familiar with Chun Zhao wouldn't believe that he could handle third knight alone. However, since it was the second knight, it was much more believable. I've been rude. Bailarinsa Deco quickly apologized. It seemed that he'd found the right person this time. Where's your wife? As soon as Chun Zhao finished speaking, he heard the door open. A brown-haired woman pushed the door open. She was also in her early 30s and wore thick glasses. However, he could tell that she was quite pretty. A faint aura rippled around her body. Deco, do you have guests? Let me introduce you. This is my wife, Prani. This is Chun, my friend. Chun Zhao glanced at Prani. She couldn't feel the magic power on her, but Chun Zhao could. In terms of strength, she was indeed at the level of the second knight. It was rare for someone in their 30s to awaken to the second knight. If she could come into contact with the supernatural world earlier and undergo relevant training and stimulation, she might be able to reach the level of the third knight. Of course, if she awakened to the third knight, it might not be a good thing for her. Hi, Chun. Prani shook hands with Chun Zhao. Then she went to the kitchen. She was a woman who knew how to handle things. She probably guessed that Chun Zhao and her husband had something to talk about, so she gave him some space. Your wife still doesn't know her situation? I talked to her 2 days ago. She thought I was joking. Plus, it's April Fool's Day in a few days. She thought it was an April Fool's Day joke. Deco looked at Chun Zhao helplessly. Maybe your way of explaining isn't right. I was already very serious, but when she asked me to prove it, how could I prove that I'm just a person at the edge of the supernatural world? I can't use magic. Okay, what about tonight? Do we need to do anything to cover it up? I think it's not bad to let her truly understand the world. In the past, she's always been a staunch atheist. Sometimes, she'll even do some blasphemous things. Okay, I hope she won't be scared. Chun Zhao shrugged. Also, this is downtown. The second night will cause a lot of trouble. We can't do it here. This wasn't a normal first night. It was just some monsters going through the motions. Under normal circumstances, the second night was already quite large. Also, because of the spiritual chi tide. Who knew how strong the second night would be? So, they definitely couldn't do it downtown. Especially in this kind of apartment building. There were people everywhere. If any monster wanted to have an appetite, they might have to fish out 2 innocent souls to fill their stomachs. I have a house in the suburbs. It's rather remote. We can go there. Okay, let's go there. Chun Zhao didn't mind. It was fine as long as it was remote. Do you need to prepare anything? Or you can go first. Sure. Chun Zhao didn't plan on going with the couple. It would seem too weird. This is the key to my house in the suburbs. Take it first. Feel free to prepare anything as long as you don't blow up the house. I won't prepare anything dangerous, but when the second night happens, I can't guarantee that there won't be any damage. I understand. After all, Deco had seen the world. He knew what the second night was like. No one could guarantee what would come, so he didn't force it. Chapter 2899. Is your friend gone? When Palani came out with the fruit platter, she realized that Chun Zhao had already left. Yes, Palani, Deco said. Rest for a few days. Let's go to that house in the forest. Why go there? I don't like that place, Palani said honestly. Aren't you going to open the dentist's office? It's rare for you to rest. I want to stay by your side. Last Christmas, I suggested going to that house for Christmas, but you rejected me with the reason that the dentist's office would be open on Christmas. There aren't any holidays recently, other than April Fool's Day. It's not our wedding anniversary either. I can't think of a reason to go there. Deco was speechless. After a while, he said, Do I have to have a reason? Palani hesitated and said awkwardly, Do I have to go? I want you to go. Bailarinsa Deco looked at Pellegrini seriously. Palani bit her lower lip and replied, Okay, I'll prepare. Returning to her room, Palani first looked outside. Then she locked the door and took out her phone. Polani, there's a situation. My guess might be right. Deco wants to kill me. Her best friend, Rue and I, was silent for a while. Then she said, Polani, to be honest, you really should see a psychiatrist. I'm serious, Rue and I. Believe me, he watched 3 killer movies in the past few days, and all of them involved dismemberment. Also, I checked his car recorder yesterday. He recently went to a chemical wholesale store. I suspect that he wanted to buy sulfuric acid to destroy the body. Also, I found that the fruit knife at home is missing. Rue and I was a little worried. She was a little worried. She was a little worried. You've already told me this many times. This can't be used as evidence that he wants to kill you. If he wants to kill you, he needs a motive. I think he might have an affair with the nurses at the clinic. They definitely want to kill me and get together with them. If he really had an affair, he could have divorced you directly instead of killing you and destroying your body. Your husband definitely doesn't have that kind of courage. He said he was his friend, but I know all his friends, and he doesn't have any Asian friends. That Asian looked like a killer, and I felt a dangerous aura from him. When that Asian left, Deke even gave him the keys to the house. Although his actions were very covert, I saw it. Say, since he asked me to go to the house to play, why did he give the keys to an outsider? That Asian must be waiting for me there. What should I do, Rue and I? I'm so scared. On the other end of the phone, Rue and I rubbed the space between her eyebrows. She didn't know when it started, but her best friend had started to be paranoid. At first, she suspected that her husband was having an affair. After an unknown period of time, she began to suspect that her husband wanted to kill her. Renee had tried to persuade Polani many times. It seemed that everything her husband did became so suspicious. Knock, knock. Polani, are you ready? What are you doing? Why do you have to lock the door? Oh, I'm changing. Okay, hurry up. I hope to get to the house before dark. Almost. Polani put the gun in her bag and opened the door. Have you changed your clothes? Why are you still wearing this? Chapter 2900. Dear, I have a headache. I don't want to go. Can we turn back? Polani asked. Polani, we're only a few kilometers away. Polani glanced behind her. Rue's car was right in front of them. Polani calmed down a little. It seemed that Rue was reliable. At least, Polani touched the gun hidden in her bag. At least she didn't have to use it. Polani, do you remember the topic I discussed with you 2 days ago? Polani was a little distracted. What did you say? I mean, do you remember the topic we discussed 2 days ago? What topic? Well, we discussed it that day. About God. You firmly believe that God does not exist. Is there a problem? No, but I think you will soon be able to determine whether God exists or not. Polani was shocked. Was he implying that she would soon be going to see God? Damn it. Is he no longer hiding it now? Polani's heart skipped a beat again. Deco, can I ask you a question? Of course, we are husband and wife. You can ask me any questions. Have you ever thought of killing me? Bailarinsa Deco looked at Polani in confusion and could not help but laugh. Of course not, dear. Although your occasional bad habits make me want to kill you. Bailarinsa Deco said with a smile. Polani was a physicist, and in addition to her high IQ, her EQ was pitifully low. Arrogant, rude, outspoken, and emotional. These were all Polani's shortcomings. And Polani's living habits were quite bad. Sometimes Pellegrini's low EQ was really a headache. But what was even more troublesome was her bad habits. She had all the characteristics of a woman. But sometimes Bailarinsa Deco wondered if the woman he spent all his time with had the soul of a sloppy man hidden under her skin. Many times, some of Polani's actions even drove Bailarinsa Deco crazy. Of course, it was just crazy. Sometimes when he went in and out of a high-end restaurant, he was stopped because of Polani's untidiness. Other times, it was still bearable. Polani, on the other hand, was trying to recall if she had ever done anything in her life that made her husband want to kill her. Okay, here we are. Bailarinsa Deco parked the car. Pellegrini did not want to get out of the car, but Bailarinsa Deco had already pulled out the car key. This made Polani very disappointed. She had originally planned to steal the car and escape. Pellegrini carefully followed Bailarinsa Deco. She kept her hand in the bag, holding the gun all the time. At this moment, she was very nervous. She felt that her blood vessels were about to explode. When he arrived at the villa, the door was open from the inside. Polini suddenly pulled out his gun and fired at the door. Bang! Chun Zhao stared at the cracked apple in his hand, dumbfounded. Bailarinsa Deco was also stunned. He didn't feel good at all. What are you doing? Is this the Night of Awakening syndrome? At this time, Rue and I, who was parked not far away, heard the gunshots. She hurriedly got out of the car and ran toward Pellegrini's house. Coincidentally, she saw Bailarinsa Deco and Pellegrini at the door, as well as the Asian that Pellegrini had mentioned. Chun Zhao looked at Bailarinsa Deco in confusion. Then he looked at Polani. You're right. I only picked an apple in your backyard, and you're going to treat me like this? Don't come over. Pellegrini yelled. Pellegrini, what are you doing? Put the gun down. What? Are you still trying to trick me? Pellegrini yelled hysterically. Chun Zhao was even more confused. What was going on? He was here to exorcise, not to watch a couple's farce. Pellegrini, calm down, calm down. Put the gun down. Rue and I also ran over to stop Pellegrini. Did you invite a friend? Chun Zhao asked Bailarinsa Deco. Ruini, why are you here? Bailarinsa Deco was also confused at this moment. He felt that he might have missed some news. Rue and I, you came just in time. See, I was right. This Asian is the killer I was talking about. Chun Zhao felt that his IQ was lacking. Anyway, he didn't understand what was going on with this couple. Also, why had he become a killer? Chun Zhao looked at Bailarinsa Deco blankly. Mr. Deco, I need an explanation. Why did I become a killer? Bailarinsa Deco was very tired. I want to know too. His wife only had low EQ. She shouldn't be lacking IQ too, right? Pellegrini, put the gun down. Worried that something would happen, Bailarinsa Deco reached out to press Pellegrini's gun down. But just then, the agitated Pellegrini fired. Bang! Bailarinsa Deco looked at his chest and then slowly collapsed to the ground. Deco, Pellegrini still loved her husband. Seeing that she had shot and injured Bailarinsa Deco, she hurriedly put down the gun and helped her husband up. Chun Zhao also squatted down and patted Deco's face. Are you okay? Bailarinsa Deco didn't lose consciousness. I don't feel good. Do you know healing spells? No, but I'm a doctor and a university professor. Let me take a look at your injury. Chun Zhao's magic seeped into Deco's body. Not bad. It didn't hurt the main artery or the heart. Bear with it. I'll help you take out the bullet. Whoosh! Suddenly, Pellegrini and Rue's vision blurred. Then they saw Chun Zhao's bloody fingers holding a bullet. Rue and I whistled. Are all medical professors at this level now? Seeing the bullet, Pellegrini heaved a sigh of relief. But then, her gaze landed on the gun that had been put down. Instinctively, she reached for her gun, but Chun Zhao was faster. Ms. Pellegrini, guns are dangerous. Please don't joke like this. Chun Zhao looked at the two women before him. Carry your husband in first, and then explain clearly why you shot me. Was it because I plucked your apple? You're letting a frightened lady carry her husband in? You're not a gentleman. Sorry, I'm holding a gun right now. It's not convenient. Chun Zhao smiled at Rue and I. In the living room, Chun Zhao stuffed the gun into Rue's hands. I hope you won't shoot me. That depends on what you do, Rue and I said. Go find some gauze and scissors. Preferably alcohol or alcohol. Chapter 2901. You're really not here to kill me? Polani still had some doubts about Chun Zhao. Chun Zhao stopped treating Bailarinsa Deco and looked up at Polani. Now, he really wanted to kill this woman with an abnormal brain circuit. Do you know what's going on with her? Chun Zhao asked. Rue and I glanced at Polani. Polani immediately tensed up. If this Asian was really here to kill her, if Rue and I said it, he might just kill them. Polani's gaze landed on the gun in Rue's hand. No, Rue and I seemed to really trust him. Polani climbed up the wall and snatched the gun from Rue and I. Chun Zhao and Rue and I were both dumbfounded. What was going on? Rue and I sighed. Polani suspects that her husband has an affair and wants to kill her for another woman. This time, her husband brought her here and she suspects that he's going to do something to her. Your appearance makes her think that you're a killer. Chun Zhao didn't know what expression he should have. Anyway, it wasn't very pleasant. He touched his cheek and asked, "Do I look like a killer?" "You're definitely a killer. I feel a dangerous aura from you." Rue and I rolled our eyes. "Dangerous aura? I think you're the most dangerous person here." Rue and I really wanted to drag Polanyi to see a psychiatrist. But now that Polanyi had a gun, Rue and I decided not to agitate her. "I'm not wrong. You're definitely a killer. Deco told you to come early to prepare and kill me as soon as I arrive. I had a gun in my hand just now. Why do you think I didn't shoot you if I wanted to kill you? Maybe because Deco was shot and you had to save him first. If he died, you wouldn't get the reward." Chun Zhao was dumbfounded by this forceful reasoning. "You're still the best. Even 100 mouths can't compare to you." Chun Zhao didn't know how to explain it to her. In the end, he decided to give up. "Rue and I, you had to trust my judgment. I'm not wrong, and I'm not crazy. Polanyi, no matter if your guess is true or not, I think we should hand him over to the police now. It's useless. Professional killers like them must have a legal identity, so the police will definitely let him go." "Then what do you plan to do?" Polanyi looked at Chun Zhao with a dangerous glint in her eyes. Ruini cursed inwardly and hurriedly said, "Polanyi, we haven't figured it out yet." "The facts are clear," Polanyi said, raising his gun. "Why don't we interrogate him and see what plans he has? Also, your husband is still in danger." Rue and I felt that the most important thing right now was to stop Polanyi from making more mistakes. He had to stop her from shooting first. Once she did, he would kill Chun Zhao. It would all be too late. As long as he didn't kill anyone, everything else was fine. At most, he would just pay him a sum of money afterward. Rue and I had our own family as well. Therefore, it was acceptable for them to pay a loss. "All right, tell me, what are you prepared for?" Polanyi asked as he raised his gun with both hands. "What answer do you want?" Chun Zhao asked. For a moment, Polanyi did not know how to answer. She turned her eyes to the other corners. Suddenly, she saw a large black satchel next to the cabinet. "Rue and I, go open that black satchel." Rue and I was suspicious. Chun Zhao tilted his head and looked at the black satchel. That was strange. He had arrived 2 hours earlier than them and had gone in and out a few times. He didn't seem to have seen this satchel before. Moreover, they didn't seem to have brought a satchel when they came. Rue and I glanced at Chun Zhao and opened the black satchel. But the moment she opened it, Rue and I was terrified. It was filled with guns and grenades. "Whose is this? Why are there so many guns?" "It's his," Polanyi said. "I saw him with this." Now, even Rue and I started to wonder if Polanyi was right. Was this man really a killer? Rue and I couldn't be blamed for not being firm. There were simply too many weapons in the bag. There were too many types. There were at least 20 to 30, both familiar and unfamiliar. There was also a large amount of ammunition. It was enough to rob a bank. Which normal person would carry so many guns and ammunition? "Have you seen me with this satchel before?" Chun Zhao asked. Polanyi closed her eyes and thought for a moment. Then she nodded. "Yes, I've seen it before." Chun Zhao frowned and looked at Polanyi. "This woman isn't pretending to be crazy, is she? I think you're definitely hallucinating. I won't be wrong. As a killer, you must have a gun too, right?" Polanyi looked at Chun Zhao confidently. "Rue and I, go search him. Pay attention to his back." Rue and I hesitated and circled behind Chun Zhao. Chun Zhao's expression suddenly turned strange. The moment Rue and I reached out to search him, he suddenly felt something appear behind him. What was going on? Had he been tricked? Rue and I swiped and really took out a gun. By now, Chun Zhao could no longer explain himself. "So what do you have to say now?" Chun Zhao was silent for a few seconds. Then he said, "How about we play a game?" "What game?" Chun Zhao opened his palm and a coin appeared in it. "Let's guess heads and tails. If you guess correctly once, I'll answer your question. Also, I promise that I'll tell you everything you want to know." "I have a gun," Polanyi said. "Why do I have to play such a boring game with you? A gun can't guarantee your safety, especially at such a close distance. Do you know that killers are best at snatching guns at close range? Also, do you think you have bullets in your gun?" Chun Zhao opened his other hand. There were 6 bullets in it. "Don't try to trick me. My gun magazine is filled with more than 6 bullets." In fact, he'd stolen the 6 bullets from Polanyi's gun. Chun Zhao had purposely kept a few bullets. However, Chun Zhao sensed that Pelony's gun magazine was really filled with bullets. Chun Zhao was really dumbfounded. What kind of ability was this? It was so strange. How is it? You have nothing to say now? I suggest you be more honest. Huh? Impressive. Looks like I can't hide it from you. Chun Zhao laughed out loud. I had a bomb in this house. Guess where it is? Pelony closed her eyes again. A few seconds later, her eyes lit up. In the fridge. Rue and I, go check the fridge. Be careful. He might have designed a bomb that will explode when you open it. Chapter 2902. Rue and I felt that Pelony was becoming more like a witch. This wasn't a guess at all. It was a prophecy. There really was a bomb in the fridge, the kind that would explode as soon as the fridge door was opened. Chun Zhao felt like he really did live up to that saying. Something fell from his pants. By now, Rue and I believed Pelony's words. You're really an assassin? Chun Zhao shrugged with a smile. I don't want to explain more. Rue and I, tie him up. Rue and I was very upset. She felt that Pelony was very good at ordering her around. Fine. She'd listen to her for now. Is it tight? Rue and I nodded. He definitely can't break free. Just then, Pelony found a knife. If you don't tell the truth, I'll use this knife to cut off your flesh piece by piece. Fine, I'll tell the truth. You're right. I'm an assassin. I took his money to kill you. Then why didn't you shoot before? Haven't you already found a good reason for me? Why do you still have to ask? No, I think you have another goal. Fine, I think you're pretty, so I want to satisfy myself before carrying out the mission. Are you satisfied with this answer? Rue's face turned red in anger. She gritted her teeth and glared at Chun Zhao. Pelony stared at Chun Zhao coldly. Suddenly, she raised the knife and stabbed it into the center of Chun Zhao's thigh. Chun Zhao's legs tightened in fear. Fuck, that scared me to death. Even if he was invulnerable, this sudden stab was still quite frightening. This was definitely the first time Chun Zhao had lost his composure. But Pelony didn't really stab it. She was just scaring Chun Zhao. Seeing Chun Zhao's pale face, Pelony felt a sense of satisfaction. I've already said so much. Why don't you satisfy me once and play that coin-guessing game? Why are you so obsessed with this game? Rue and I asked. Chun Zhao glanced at Rue and I, and then at Pelony. Do you believe in God? Why do you and Deco like to ask this question? A person who doesn't believe in God has God's power. What a strange world. Pelony and Rue and I did not understand Chun Zhao's strange words. Chun Zhao wasn't sure about Pelony's abilities either. Her ability was similar to that in Aladdin's magic lamp. As long as she made a wish, she could make it come true. Of course, she couldn't distort other people's thoughts, but she could create things out of thin air. Chun Zhao wasn't sure if she really had this ability. Or was it a similar ability? The gun for before and the black satchel. They had all appeared out of thin air. This kind of ability was like the Taoist saying of the law. Can you say something? Say what? Just say that I want to defeat you. What? You said that I would defeat you. I want to defeat you? I told you what's wrong. Chun Zhao was silent for 3 seconds and then shook his head. I don't think so. Did you think so just now? What are you thinking about? Defeat me. Pelony frowned. What are you trying to say? Or what do you want to do? I just want to entertain myself. Aren't you going to satisfy this small request of mine? I've already thought about it. You just don't know. Really? Chun Zhao was a bit disappointed. It seemed that Pelony wasn't really strong enough to say the law. Chun Zhao didn't really know what kind of ability it was. Hey, what exactly do you want to do to me? Kill me? If that's the case, you better hurry up. The two women seemed to have almost forgotten about him. I haven't thought about what to do with you, Pelony said. But that doesn't mean you're safe. Maybe I'll kill you and then make you disappear from this world. Fine, before you kill me, can you turn on the TV? It's so boring being tied up here. Rainey was speechless. Can you give us some nervousness or fear? It felt like they were the passive ones. It made them lose face. You think I don't dare to kill you? You better give your husband, Zhao, some anti-inflammatory medicine. He seems to have symptoms of infection. I don't care. Looking at her dying husband on the sofa, Pelony's heart softened again. The two women rummaged through the drawers and finally found the anti-inflammatory medicine. After feeding him the anti-inflammatory medicine, By Lorenza Deco's condition improved. Bored, Chun Zhao turned on the TV. Why did the TV turn on by itself? Rainey turned to look at Chun Zhao. Chun Zhao was tied up properly. The remote wasn't beside him either. Why did the TV suddenly turn on? Have you heard of this legend? It said that a house that hasn't been lived in for a long time might have lost its way. Maybe it's because I haven't used the TV for a long time. The TV's electronic components are damp and short-circuited. It's not strange. Polini was an atheist. Chun Zhao's scare didn't have any effect at all. Oh, is that so? Chun Zhao chuckled and looked at Polini. Other than being an assassin, I'm also an exorcist. I think this house isn't clean. Something might happen. If you want to scare us, you'd better tell us something reliable, like how many people you've killed and how cruelly you killed them. If you're trying to say that there are ghosts in this house, I'm afraid you're just wasting your breath, Polini said expressionlessly. She scoffed at Chun Zhao's words. She didn't believe him at all. The moon is so beautiful tonight. Chun Zhao suddenly turned his head and looked outside. It'll be more convenient if I kill you and throw your body away. This time, it was Polini's turn to scare Chun Zhao. It's about to start. Start what? Rainey was very nervous. She could vaguely smell something unusual. Chun Zhao didn't answer Rainey. Instead, he said, "You shouldn't have come. You have nothing to do with this. Did you make other preparations?" Polani tightened her grip on her gun. Or do you have other accomplices? Accomplices? Not really. As assassins, they're competitors. You're saying that Deco found other assassins? He didn't find anyone, Chun Zhao said, smiling. They just came to me. Suddenly, a pair of pitch-black hands appeared from behind the wall and grabbed Rue and I in front of her. Bang, bang. Pirani instinctively fired, shattering the black arm and causing Rue and I to fall to the ground. Such beautiful shooting. Chapter 2903. Chun Zhao didn't expect Pellegrini to be so accurate. No, not only was she accurate, but her bullets could also injure evil spirits. Falling to the ground, Renee looked at Pellegrini in fear. What happened? Who caught me just now? Renee turned around. There were only 2 bullet holes in the wall. There was nothing else. But Pellegrini was facing Renee. She'd seen something. Or rather, she'd seen what it looked like. Chun Zhao looked at Pellegrini with a smile. Your night of awakening has begun. What night of awakening? What are you talking about? Renee asked. She felt that something wasn't right, or rather, it had always been wrong. Although Pellegrini's guesses kept turning into reality, she just felt that it wasn't that simple. And the truth was just as she'd guessed. The situation seemed to be developing in an unknown and unpredictable direction. Pellegrini was clearly in shock too. Her worldview was being destroyed. What she believed in the past was being torn apart. What she used to hold on to, what she thought was being torn to shreds. They definitely weren't human figures. Humans couldn't do that. That was definitely not a human figure. In any case, a human would definitely not be able to make such an action. What exactly is that? That's what you denied in the past. That's what you used to deny. Just then, the floor-to-ceiling window shattered. At this moment, the floor-to-ceiling window shattered. It was a malevolent-looking spirit. It didn't plan on covering its tracks at all. It charged straight at Pellegrini. It did not intend to cover its tracks at all and charged straight at Polani. Pellegrini could actually shoot even in her extreme shock. Polani was actually able to fire even in such a shock state. Pellegrini could actually shoot even in her extreme shock. The spirit let out a sharp cry. Then it disappeared. There was no time for Pellegrini to be shocked. More evil spirits charged in from the broken window. Most were low-level evil spirits. Bang, bang, bang. Pellegrini was terrified, but she didn't stop shooting. Every shot hit its target with 100% accuracy. One shot for one kid. Her efficiency in killing evil spirits was shocking. Even among the members of the supernatural organization, he was considered above average. Apart from a few who could cover the area with a wave of ultimate skills, no one could compare. Logically speaking, her gun should have run out of bullets long ago, but she could still shoot. Even Rue and I was dumbfounded. Chun Zhao had never seen someone who could go on the night of awakening by themselves. Pellegrini was definitely the first. It might also be the first in history. In any case, he was awesome. Rue and I didn't expect her best friend to be so good at fighting. Could it be that to become a physicist, one must first practice shooting? Polani, do you have an endless supply of bullets in your gun? The gunshots stopped abruptly, and Pirani froze for a moment. Yeah, why? Why were they able to shoot continuously? Pirani pulled out a clip. No bullets. I'm out of bullets. Chen Zhao watched from the side. She doubted herself. When she doubted herself, her ability disappeared. In other words, when she felt that it was true, it would happen. However, once he doubted himself, he would not be able to manifest his ability. However, this ability could not be used on humans. At the same time, this ability could not change the minds of others. Like she thought her husband was going to kill her. In fact, Bailarinsa Deco had no such intention. The concrete manifestation of her ability should be to create objects, not to change reality. Aren't you going to use my weapons? Chun Zhao asked. But you better be careful. My weapons are very powerful. Pirani's eyes brightened. She went up and picked up the black satchel. She loaded it skillfully and then looked at Chun Zhao. Isn't this a normal weapon? How powerful can it be? Use your imagination and try it yourself. Won't you know? Just then, a huge, evil spirit charged in. It was even bigger and fiercer than the previous ones. Pirani raised her gun and fired at the evil spirit. Boom! Half the room was gone. The evil spirit disappeared along with half of its body. Pirani was also sent flying by the impact. When she stood up again, she looked very weak. Pirani turned to Chun Zhao with a blank expression. Is that a gun? It's a cannon, okay? Chun Zhao looked at Pirani with interest. Just as she guessed, these guns were not Chun Zhao's. So Chun Zhao had no idea how powerful they were. But Chun Zhao had misled Pirani with words to make her believe in the power of these guns. When she believed that these guns were more powerful than normal guns, these guns really became terrifyingly destructive. But now that half of the room was gone, their field of vision was even wider. They saw a whirlpool above their heads. A huge whirlpool formed by evil spirits. Evil spirits filled the sky and danced around the whirlpool. It was as if the gates of hell had opened. The stronger evil spirits were also waiting for a chance to devour the weaker spirits. Chun Zhao couldn't help but whistle. So many. There were really so many. All the evil spirits in L.A. had probably been attracted here. They're all here for you. Welcome them. Chun Zhao chuckled at the shocking scene before him. Pirani's face was drained of blood. The scene was too shocking. Chun Zhao was also surprised. Before seeing it with his own eyes, he'd only sensed that there were many evil spirits outside through his senses. Because the auras of these evil spirits were mixed together, even Chun Zhao didn't know how many there were. But after seeing it with his own eyes, Chun Zhao finally confirmed many things. Pellegrini was also frightened. When despair flooded her, she realized that she couldn't do anything. The weakness she felt right now made her feel very powerless. After she'd fired that shot, she realized that it was hard for her to even breathe. Pirani turned to Chun Zhao. Powerless, unwilling, and angry, she said, "Tell me, what's going on? Why do I have to face these things?" As you can see, these are all your customers. Their requirements are simple. Your magic, your flesh, and your soul. Just then, a group of evil spirits separated from the whirlpool. They turned into a whistling black cloud and surged toward Pirani. There might be hundreds of evil spirits separated from the whirlpool. This was only 1% of the total, maybe even less. Pirani raised her gun again. With a boom, a ball of fire exploded in the middle of the black cloud. A large number of evil spirits were annihilated by this attack. But this wave of attacks didn't end. The evil spirits that didn't die were crazily devouring the scattered soul fragments. At this time, although their numbers had decreased, they had become stronger individually. They were even more scattered. Pirani didn't know what to do. Chapter 2904. The second shot made her even weaker. She could already feel that after she used this weapon, she would feel powerless. Chun Zhao also felt it. It seemed that she could materialize some things. But it wasn't limitless. For example, from Chun Zhao's words, she believed that the gun was powerful. For example, Through Chun Zhao's words, she believed that the gun was powerful, but there was a condition. She needed to consume her magic power. This meant that if she had enough magic power, she could even materialize a world. In other words, if she had enough magic power, she could even materialize a world. Of course, to materialize an entire world, she had to have enough magic power. All the spiritualists in the world combined wouldn't be enough. But this was still enough to show how powerful she was. Theoretically, there was no limit to her power. Actually, these evil spirits are all energy bodies. Their bodies are very weak. I have a glove in my bag, a black glove. After you put it on, you can directly touch these evil spirits and tear them apart with your hands. Parani immediately rummaged through her bag and found a pair of black gloves. Without hesitation, she put them on immediately. Just then, the evil spirits swooped down. They look fierce, but most of them can't actually cause physical damage to you. Find a chance and punch them. Parani swung her fist and smashed an evil spirit in front of her. Pooh! The evil spirit was dumbfounded. Just then, it saw a black hand grab it. Rip off their heads. Parani grabbed the evil spirit's head and pulled lightly. The evil spirit's head was torn off. Rue and I was dumbfounded. She could do that? Chun Zhao nodded in satisfaction. Parani didn't need his guidance anymore. She already knew how to fight according to Chun Zhao's instructions. Pellegrini had an absolute advantage in low-level battles. Parani could kill one with a punch, but the evil spirits kept increasing. She gradually couldn't keep up. Whoosh! Parani's arm was scratched. Ah, it hurts! Parani yelled. Didn't you say they can't cause physical damage? It looks like a physical injury, but it's actually an illusion in your brain. As long as you believe that they're not hurting you, the illusion will be destroyed. Chun Zhao wanted to see if Polani's ability could be used on him. Polani suddenly realized that it did not hurt that much anymore. He loosened his grip on the wound, and it disappeared. I feel very tired. Polani's body swayed. Her face was pale, her breathing ragged, and her arms were no longer strong. Chun Zhao looked at Parani. It seemed that she had used up too much magic power and couldn't recover fast enough. This was also the problem faced by most spiritualists. Most spiritualists would run out of mana after casting a few spells. Of course, it was mostly because he didn't know how to control his mana. Chun Zhao had been through this before, so he was worth Polani's current situation. Forget it, I'll do it next. Renee and Pelani looked up at Chun Zhao. The rope binding Chun Zhao suddenly turned into ashes. Chun Zhao stood up. You, both Rainey and Parani, stared at him in shock. Do you really think that this thing could tie me up? Both of them looked slightly embarrassed. Weren't you afraid that I would really shoot? Huh. Chun Zhao chuckled and looked up at the sky. Then Chun Zhao snapped his fingers. First, the evil spirit closest to Chun Zhao suddenly ignited into a ball of fire. In just a few seconds, it exploded into a ball of sparks. The sparks touched the other evil spirits. The other evil spirits exploded right after. The sky was filled with tens of thousands of evil spirits, like fireworks. They kept spreading and exploding. Even the most beautiful spell wasn't even 1% of this. Some evil spirits had their own elements, so they were especially beautiful when they exploded. Renee's mouth gaped. Pelani's eyes were filled with splendor. In just a few minutes, after a chain of explosions, the sky full of evil spirits had disappeared. The vortex formed by the evil spirits also dissipated. Only soul fragments fell from the sky like stars. It was the most beautiful scene in the world. Rue and I looked at him. You're not a killer, right? I told you that I'm an amateur exorcist. Not long ago, I received a request from a good husband. His wife might awaken her magic power, and this kind of awakening is extremely dangerous, so he asked me to protect his wife. Because their house is in the downtown area, it's not convenient for them to perform the Night of Awakening, so they moved to a remote forest villa. That's all I know and my purpose. As for whether this good husband plans to kill his wife and elope with her lover after her awakening, I don't know. Rue and I speechlessly looked at Pellegrini. Pellegrini's face alternated between red and white. Then why did you admit it just now? I've always been a very honest person, especially when someone points a gun at me. I'll be very scared, and I can only obediently say things that go against my heart. Rue and I and Polanyi were speechless again. Chun Zhao cooperated. But you said you were very afraid. Let's be reasonable. If you were even a little bit scared just now, I would have killed myself on the spot. Chun Zhao glanced at the wall. The clock on the wall. Half of the house had been destroyed by Pellegrini, but the other half was still undamaged. Mr. Deco told me to try not to damage his house. Luckily, I didn't do it. No, it's your weapon. It's not my fault. Pellegrini stared at Chun Zhao, gritting her teeth. Chun Zhao shook his head. No, it's not my weapon. It's yours. How can it be mine? They're created by your will. Didn't you realize that every time you do as I say, you first believe me, then it'll have the same or similar effect. But at the same time, you'll be exhausted. It's because you don't have enough magic power. Created. You're saying I created all these? They're not yours or anyone else's. I've never met a spiritualist like you, but through the test just now, I've roughly figured something out. Your power first requires you to believe, then you can create. Of course, at the same time, you need to consume a corresponding amount of mana. Just like before, your gun can have unlimited bullets because you believe that you can shoot. But when your friend says that there are no bullets in the gun, you realize that there are no bullets in the gun. At this time, you believe that there are no bullets, so the bullets also disappear. So it's my fault? Rue and I asked, surprised. More or less. Pellegrini looked at Chun Zhao. You told me to say that I can defeat you. What's your goal? Chapter 2905. I just wanted to see if your abilities are limitless. And the result? Chun Zhao only chuckled. Do you still firmly believe that God doesn't exist? Although I accept the supernatural, I still firmly believe that God doesn't exist. I also feel that what's happening around me can still be explained by science. Fine. Chun Zhao shrugged. Can we talk in private? I'll go get something to drink, Rue and I said dutifully. Do you need anything? Seeing Rue and I leave, Polanyi said, You can say whatever you want. I don't care about your personal beliefs, but I think you can interact with others. Are you interested in becoming a profession? What? I'm inviting you to join the Supernatural Organization. I'm the president of the organization. What's the nature of the organization? What kind of work do you do? Isn't the name clear enough? We work in the field of the supernatural. As for our job, we do a small amount of research, but most of our work is in the field of security. Currently, we are responsible for the security of the supernatural in the California area. For example, your situation is within our scope of work. We are a semi-government organization. There are many of your seniors here. You can communicate with them. There are also many books about magic. It doesn't matter if you accept this supernatural world or want to explain it from a scientific perspective. Chun Zhao nodded. That's right. What about the working hours and salary? The hours aren't fixed. Under normal circumstances, it's not long, but we recently issued a new rule. Every member has to complete a fixed training time every week. Of course, the time isn't long. You're more free during the rest of the time. You can continue with your current work, or you can arrange to rest or do other things. You can assign most tasks to others. Only a few tasks are for group activities, and you have to stop what you're doing. Chun Zhao paused. As for the salary, it's not bad. How's your current salary? Around $5,000 a week. If you include tax and insurance, it's less than $4,000. The lowest salary in our organization should be 10 times your current salary, Chun Zhao said. Of course, high salary also means high risk. You should know that we're not dealing with ordinary people. The danger is even higher than the police. Of course, the ratio of risk to return is in line with market demand. I need to think about it. Polanyi was not really short of money. She was a researcher who did scientific research. Her income was stable, and her income was already considered relatively high. In addition, her husband was a dentist, and his income was much higher than hers. Therefore, their family was basically not short of money, and they were able to achieve financial freedom. Of course, the minimum income Chun Zhao promised was 10 times higher than his current income. Still, Polanyi was a little tempted, although Pellegrini was a researcher. However, She was not the kind of person who regarded money as dirt. In fact, most people in this world are not. Apart from a handful of experts, there were only a handful of people who treated money like dirt. Most of them were rich people. Polani was a vulgar woman. Of course, she had her own desires. But before that, she still wanted to ask her husband about it. Of course, she needed to apologize to him first. She was very apologetic for misunderstanding her husband. She even felt stupid. Why would she have such a strange idea? Just then, Rue and I came with a few cans of beer. Are you guys done chatting? Rue and I gave him a can of beer. Pellegrini, how long has it been since you came to this house? I searched the entire house. There are only a few cans of beer, and they're expired. Chun Zhao glanced at the production date of the beer. Pellegrini felt helpless too. She had bought this house because it was cheap. At the time, she had just met by Lorenzo Deco. Neither of them had much money. As a result, after buying this house, both of their jobs and careers had developed quite well. Then, they bought the luxurious apartment in the city. Naturally, this house was empty. The two planned to come and live here occasionally. But in reality, they did not even have the chance to live here. If not for the Night of Awakening, this house would probably be empty for even longer. This is my contact. No matter what your decision is, give me a call. After accepting Chun Zhao's name card, Chun Zhao nodded. Are you leaving? Of course. I don't want to spend the night in a leaky house. Then here, just say there was a gas leak and an explosion happened. Chun Zhao was familiar with this method. In fact, this was how the supernatural organization handled things. They only solved the problem, not the aftermath. At most, they would call the police. When the police came, they would say there was a gas leak. Also, don't try to use your power to treat your husband. Why? Because you'll kill yourself, Chun Zhao said. He had already confirmed that when Pellegrini used her power to treat herself, she used up a lot of energy. Her injuries weren't serious, but she'd used up a lot more energy than Chun Zhao had expected. Lorenzo Deco's injuries were much more serious than Pellegrini's. If Pellegrini forcefully used this materialization ability to treat her husband, it was very likely that he would drain Polani of her magic and then her life force. Your husband's injuries are serious, but they're not fatal, so I'm reminding you. Okay, I've said what I need to say. I should go. West, I'm done here. How's the situation on your side? The Night of Awakening that Gaia and Gila's teams are in charge of is done too, but John Ash's team hasn't sent back any news yet. Will she be in danger? Do we need to reinforce her? Not at the moment. The Night of Awakening have a long and short duration. There's no specific time, so it's understandable that she's taking a while to respond. Besides, John Ash is a proud person. If we go and help her, she'll be angry. Okay, then that's it for now. Contact me if anything happens. Chun Zhao did not insist on interfering. 9 Heavens Divine Emperor. Chapter 2906. The next day, Chun Zhao finally received West's call. Boss, Jalen Ash didn't return last night. Something might have happened. Why did you call me only now? Chun Zhao asked, displeased. Is there no news from her at all? No. I already sent Hell AIs and Gaia. They haven't reached the location yet. Where? Chun Zhao asked. Hell AIs and Gaia were stronger than Jalen Ash, but not by much. At least, they weren't overwhelming. Since Jalen Ash's team was in trouble, the two might not be able to solve it. Sequoia National Park. So far, who's the awakened that Jalen Ash helped? A forest ranger, West said. That person has come into contact with the spiritual world before. He already had some strange feelings a while ago. After looking up some information, he suspects that he's about to awaken. Male? Chun Zhao was surprised. Males usually didn't have high magic power. Of course, this was under normal circumstances. Chun Zhao didn't count. Female. I've come into contact with them before. They're comparable to Gaia. Chun Zhao pursed his lips. Using Gaia as a comparison, the person was clearly also burly. He'd thought that being a forest ranger was more male-oriented. It wasn't that Chun Zhao discriminated against females. It was just that the job was very hard, even dangerous. Males were easier to deal with when faced with danger. There weren't many women who would accept the job of a forest ranger. However, Wes said that Gaia was the same type. Then Chun Zhao understood a little. Send me the specific location, Chun Zhao said. Soon, Wes sent a GPS location to the target. Sequoia National Park was very large. It was 430 square kilometers. It was located in the northernmost part of California and had the largest redwood forest in the world. Chun Zhao considered the current situation. Time was tight. He didn't have time to take transportation slowly. So, he decided to go at his own speed. Of course, it was broad daylight now. Chun Zhao was afraid of being photographed. So, he took the water route and dived north from the west coast. Soon, he reached the edge of Sequoia National Park. On the American side, tree thieves were equivalent to poachers in Africa. They were all quite ferocious. Basically, they were in groups, holding a chainsaw in one hand and a submachine gun in the other. Moreover, they were all ruthless killers. If they delineated an area to steal trees, they would basically clear the area. As long as a living person appeared in front of them, they would not let them go. In fact, in North America, stealing trees was a very profitable business. Especially rare trees, it was basically a profitable business with a small capital. Therefore, the danger level of the American forest rangers was through the roof. After all, although the forest protectors were allowed to carry weapons, they couldn't give them airplanes or tanks. And some forests were too big. Therefore, a forest ranger team would patrol a very large area, and most of the time, they would patrol separately. Their job was not to confront the tree thieves. Basically, if they found any traces, they would immediately call for reinforcements. If he was alone and encountered a tree-stealing team, he would definitely be killed. That was basically evaporating from the face of the earth. This was not a joke. With the ruthless methods of the tree-stealing gang, burying people alive was a common practice. Putting it through the wood crusher was a common occurrence. When he arrived at Sequoia National Park, he realized that the density of the spiritual chi here was a bit too high. It wasn't just excessive, it was simply a sensitive word. Based on the current situation, the concentration of heaven and earth spirit chi in ordinary areas was about 1% to 3% higher than before the spirit chi tide. The concentration of heaven and earth spiritual chi here was at least 200% higher than in other areas. If there were different degrees of enhancement according to the influence of the heaven and earth aura on the night of awakening. Here, with the 200% concentration of heaven and earth aura, the difficulty of a night of awakening would increase to an unprecedented level. Just then his phone rang. "President, we heard from Mr. West that you're coming too. We're here now. The situation doesn't seem right. Jalanash and the hunters are gone. I've arrived at Sequoia National Park. Are you on the GPS? Yes, this is where we are now. I'll be right there." Helis had just ended the call with Chun Zhao. Suddenly, there was a sonic boom. Then Chun Zhao appeared before them. Both Hallis and Gaia rubbed their ears. Helis glanced at Chun Zhao, complaining. "President, I think the association needs to make a rule. Every time you're near other members, you can't maintain a speed above the speed of sound." Even though they had extraordinary bodies, it was still difficult for them to accept the roar brought by the sonic boom. It felt like 100 pieces of sandpaper rubbing against their ears. Chun Zhao pursed his lips. His normal speed was already over 100 times Mach, so he couldn't control it at all. Therefore, he had to hit the brakes every time. In other words, when he reached his destination, he had to form a high-density air wall in front of him and then slam into it to forcefully stop his body. This also resulted in a loud and sharp sound every time he reached his destination. Chun Zhao looked around. This was a small house in the forest. Judging from the structure, it should have been renovated in recent years. It also seemed to be inhabited. This used to be the hunter's residence, but she's gone now. Jalanash is also gone. Can't you contact her through the communicator? I can, but the signal is jammed. Even if I get through, I can't hear what they're saying. Then how do we find them? This place is more than 400 square kilometers. It's like looking for a needle in a haystack for us to find a few people here. Even if Chun Zhao spread out his small world and covered it with his senses, it was still difficult to reach every corner of this place. Jalanash and her team probably won't go very far. After all, this place is remote enough. Even the most high-level Knight of Awakening is remote enough, so they won't go deep into the forest. Okay, I'll try nearby, Chen Zhao said. Dark magma surged out from under his feet and started flowing in all directions. Every corner and every darkness was covered by the dark magma. Of course, the dark magma in this mode wasn't lethal. In this environment, Chen Zhao realized that his magic was recovering rapidly. In fact, this recovery was meaningless to him, because Chen Zhao already had a recovery speed that far exceeded his consumption. If Chen Zhao's consumption was 1, his normal recovery speed was 2. Now it was 4. This change was useless to Chen Zhao, but for low-level spiritualists, it was very important. Many big moves that they didn't dare to use in the past were no longer dangerous to them now. The spiritual tide actually didn't affect people at the top of the pyramid like Chen Zhao. Instead, it affected low-level spiritualists. It would also create more spiritualists. The increase in the bottom structure meant that more people could climb to the top of the pyramid. Chapter 2907. Suddenly, Chen Zhao's dark lava sent a message. For kilometers ahead, there was a huge sinkhole. Find a hole. Go check it out. Just as Helis and Gaia were about to speak, they saw Chen Zhao fly away. Their voices couldn't keep up with Chen Zhao's speed. Gaia looked at Chen Zhao's disappearing figure. Then she glanced at Helis beside her. Then I'll go too. The next moment, a wave of heat surged from her side. Helis quickly retreated. She saw Gaia turn into a dragon over 25 meters long and fly away. Fuck, Helis cursed. She could fly too, but not for long. She was also very slow. She was just a bit faster than a normal person running. Most importantly, she couldn't fight while flying. If she flew, she would be a moving target. This made Helis very sad. Of course, she still decided to fly in the direction Chen Zhao and Gaia had gone. After all, this was a forest, not a battlefield. It took her more than 10 minutes to travel a few kilometers. Finally, she saw a hole with a diameter of 100 meters before her. What was the diameter of this hole? It was about the size of a field. Judging from the traces, this sinkhole should have collapsed recently. However, the size of the hole was a bit ridiculous. It was so ridiculous that she couldn't see through it. Where's the president? When Helis reached the hole, she saw Gaia beside it, but she didn't return to her human form. Aren't you going to return to your human form? Maybe we'll have to fight later. Here, my dragon form consumes magic power at the same rate as my mana recovery. So, theoretically, I can maintain this form forever, Gaia answered with her dragon's bloody mouth. Okay. Helis also felt that her mana recovery speed had increased. However, most of her spells were the type that drained her immediately, so she wasn't as strategic as Gaia. Chen already went down. Why didn't you follow? Release your senses. Feel it yourself. Helis' perception range wasn't small either, although it wasn't as sensitive as Chen Zhao's small world. But it still had a range of close to 50 meters. Of course, although his perception range was 50 meters, it was only perception. He was unable to clearly sense all the movements in this area, like the small heaven and earth. Harris sensed that this place was filled with chaotic heaven and earth spiritual energy. This also meant that if they went down, their mana would be exhausted, and they would not be able to recover their mana through the spiritual energy of the world. Chaotic spiritual chi of heaven and earth would usually appear in bad weather, or after a fierce magical battle. There was a possibility of a small-scale disturbance of the spiritual chi of heaven and earth. However, the spiritual chi of heaven and earth in that situation only lasted for a short period of time. In some cases, it takes a few minutes or a few hours to calm down. If there happened to be a spiritualist who needed to replenish his mana during this period of time. Moreover, he just so happened to appear in an area with chaotic spiritual chi of heaven and earth. As a result, he basically ended up with countless needles poking into his body. When the chaotic spiritual energy of heaven and earth was absorbed into the body, most people would explode on the spot. However, the chaos at the bottom of the sinkhole had formed a cycle that wouldn't calm down in a short period of time. This was also the reason why Gaia stopped at the sinkhole. If they went down, there might be a huge battle. In that kind of environment, the two of them did not dare to have a big battle. In this situation, only Chun Zhao dared to be reckless. In reality, Chun Zhao had not planned on being reckless. However, just as he flew above the sinkhole, a gust of strong wind blew over. He lost control and plunged down. Gaia only saw the process of Chun Zhao falling into the sinkhole. She thought that Chun Zhao had gone down voluntarily. Chun Zhao landed at the bottom of the sinkhole. It was shockingly deep. The spiritual chi of heaven and earth was also extremely chaotic. However, it did not affect Chun Zhao. To Chun Zhao, it was just cold water with chili powder. But he could not fly. Chun Zhao pushed off and shot into the sky. A height of 1,000 meters was really not a problem for Chun Zhao. Even if Chun Zhao could not fly, if he shot with all his strength, he could probably shoot into outer space. When he shot to the entrance of the sinkhole, he saw Gaia and Helis beside it. When they saw Chun Zhao jump out, they were both stunned. Don't come down. With that, Chun Zhao fell back into the sinkhole. When he landed at the bottom, there was nothing there. Chun Zhao wanted to jump back to the entrance. But the next moment, there was nothing under his feet. He fell down again. Then he realized that the world around him had changed. He appeared high in the sky. There was nothing around him. Chun Zhao immediately steadied himself and looked around in confusion. What's going on? This is... Chun Zhao's face was filled with shock. Suddenly, Chun Zhao felt that the spiritual chi in the air was several times thicker than in the forest. In other words, it was at least 10 times thicker. This is not Earth. Chun Zhao's eyes widened. He suddenly thought of this possibility. Chun Zhao suddenly looked up and saw a hole in the sky. The hole was about to shrink completely. Chun Zhao suddenly jumped into the hole. He rushed out before the hole disappeared completely. As expected, he returned to the sinkhole. But the next moment, the bottom of the sinkhole was empty again. Chun Zhao fell into that world again. Chun Zhao understood a little. The hole was probably breathing. It kept breathing and channeling the spiritual chi of this world into that place. Chun Zhao looked down. Below him was a vast ocean. Just then, Chun Zhao felt a magic wave in front of him. It was not strong. It was probably from far away. However, the sea breeze still managed to carry the subtle mana fluctuations over to them. Chun Zhao flew in the direction he felt. After flying for 12 kilometers, he saw an island ahead, but it was still far away. Chun Zhao sped up and was above the island in an instant. The island was very big. Chun Zhao could not find it in a short time, but the magic wave was strong. He was also familiar with it. It should be Jallanash's. It was possible that Jallanash and her team had somehow fallen into this world. After a night, Jallanash and her team had probably fought hard. Even if they could still fight, they were at the end of their rope. So, he had to find them quickly in case something happened. Chun Zhao felt that if he used his senses, he would not be able to find them in a short time. So, he flew as high as possible to see if he could see the battle with his naked eye. Of course, while Chun Zhao's vision was very good, it was still limited. So, he was not very confident. Chapter 2908. In the forest, an unbelievably burly woman was swinging an axe. When will the president you're talking about come? I can't even lift my axe now. Jallanash was originally the strongest among them, but now she needed the protection of others instead. This was because she had been fighting continuously, and every now and then she would use a wave of ultimate moves. Although her battle record was impressive so far, it had also drained her magic. Fortunately, the heaven and earth spiritual chi here was unbelievably abundant. She would be able to fully recover her magic in about 30 minutes. However, her mental state was still not very good. At this moment, a green goblin the size of a basketball drilled through everyone's line of defense and pounced at Jallanash in the middle. Although the green demons were very small and their individual strength was not strong, their speed was extremely fast. Moreover, they were in groups to surround and kill their prey. The advantage of being small was reflected at this time. Word script. A cold light flashed. Dongye Tianxi defended in time, and killed the small green goblin in an instant. However, the line of defense that Doña Tianchi was originally in charge of had a flaw because of this. Gatella. Ultimate move. Doña Tianchi hurriedly shouted. She and Gatella were the two experts in the association with swords. Doña Tianchi was proficient in Japanese sword Dao, which focused on extreme speed and dexterity. Coupled with the demon blade, White Face Ghost, Doña Tianchi's every move was filled with cruel coldness. Gatella, on the other hand, walked the path of open and wide, basically imitating Gaia's fighting style. Gatella was Gaia's biggest fan. When they first split up, Gatella could not wait to join Gaia's team. However, Gaia did not fulfill this little fan's wish. Regarding this question, everyone knew why Gaia did not choose Gatella. Because their attributes were similar, Gatella's fighting style overlapped with Gaia's. How could Gaia choose someone with similar attributes and the same style to join his team? In the end, Gatella had no choice but to join Jallanash's team. As a long-range attacker, Jallanash naturally needed a thick-skinned melee fighter to hold the front. Doña Tianchi was not suitable for this position. Although he was a melee fighter, he was an agile melee fighter. Only Gatella was suitable for this task. Not to mention that Gage had developed a big move of his own. It was an ultimate move that he had developed while playing the game. Great Windmill. As the descendant of a berserker, how could he not know how to use Windmill? Doña Tianchi called out, and Gatella immediately took a few steps forward. Then he picked up the big black sword and began to spin it. Everyone was admiring Gatella's ultimate move. It had to be said that Gatella's ultimate move was truly pleasing to the eye. The windmill had its own suction force. Those little green devils were sucked into the windmill in groups and crushed. Green juice flew everywhere. In the blink of an eye, Genghis had cleared the area. Almost all of the little green demons were minced. Everyone could finally catch their breath. Hold on a little longer, Jallanash said. The Union should have found out that we're missing and will definitely send people to look for us. The chairman will definitely come. Which, you've said that many times, the rough woman said. She was the Awakened this time, Forest Ranger Marcia. But she could not use magic, not for the time being. She could only use the wooden axe that she usually carried with her to kill the monsters that surrounded them. Also, do you think that if your chairman comes, he can solve our current problem? Marcia asked. We're in another world right now, and all the creatures in this world seem to be our enemies. Even if your chairman comes, he'll just be food. Whoosh! Suddenly, there was a whistling sound. Then, a huge pit appeared before everyone. Chun Zhao walked out of the pit. Chairman. When everyone saw Chun Zhao, they could not help but be overjoyed. When Jallanash saw Chun Zhao, her tense nerves finally relaxed. She collapsed onto the ground. I think I heard someone questioning me just now. Marcia looked at Chun Zhao in confusion. Are you the chairman of the supernatural organization? Isn't it obvious? Marcia felt that Chun Zhao was definitely the same as them. Perhaps his original intention was to help and search for them. But now, he seemed to have fallen into this world too. Tell me, what's going on? Chun Zhao went up to treat Jallanash and gave her a simple recovery. Chairman, what do you plan to start? Jallanash asked. From the Night of Awakening. Aren't you doing the Night of Awakening? Why are you here? Chun Zhao asked, confused. It was just a Night of Awakening. No matter how strong it was, Chun Zhao had experienced it before. His two daughters were the record holders of the Night of Awakening. But even that level of awakening didn't come to another world. Could this person's Night of Awakening be able to shatter the void? We originally planned to find an open area to carry out the Night of Awakening because there were too many obstacles in the woods. It would be easy for those evil spirits to attack us. Marcia provided a place for our awakened ones, an open space without any vegetation. The Night of Awakening was much stronger than we expected. It was at least the peak of the second Night of Awakening, but we still managed to get through it. As Jallanash spoke, she glanced at Marcia. Just when we thought it was over, the ground suddenly collapsed. We kept falling. I don't know what happened, but we suddenly appeared in the sky of this world. Luckily, I can fly, so I dragged them to this island. But for some reason, all the creatures on this island started attacking us. The ground suddenly collapsed? Is it that sinkhole? Chen Zhao was a bit dazed. At the same time, he looked at Jalanash and the others sadly. That hole should be the weak point of the connection between Earth and this world. Because of their battle, the night of awakening, and the spiritual tide, the weak point collapsed. The weak point immediately collapsed, and then all of them fell into this world. Just what kind of atrocious thing did he have to do to have such extremely bad luck? Of all places, they had to choose that empty space. Perhaps it was fate. Of course, it was more likely that they were just plain unlucky. It wasn't just because they had chosen the wrong battlefield. It was also because they were looked down upon by the world's consciousness. Simply put, they were the enemies of the entire world. Chen Zhao had experienced this before, but at that time, the entire world couldn't make things difficult for him. But Jalanash and the others clearly didn't have this ability. Chapter 2909. We don't know what's going on either, Jalanash said. Every once in a while, a group of native creatures will attack us. Since last night, we've been attacked 7 times in a row. Some are strong, but there aren't many of them. Some are much weaker, but their numbers are shocking. Luckily, you landed on an island, Chen Zhao said. Otherwise, you'd be dead. Why? Because you're the enemies of this world, Chen Zhao replied. At least, that's how the world's consciousness sees you. If you landed on land, it wouldn't just be these few attacks. All the creatures would gather here. Now that you've landed on a qualified island, only the creatures on the island can attack you. Other creatures will attack you too, but they won't rush to the scene immediately. In other words, the longer we drag this out, the more creatures will attack us. You can say that. Chen Zhao nodded, but it's not just limited to creatures. What else? What else can it be other than creatures? You're the enemies of the world. What do you think you'll encounter? It's also possible that a volcano will suddenly erupt beneath your feet. What Chen Zhao said was from his own experience. But how do we leave here? Just as Chen Zhao was about to answer, he felt the ground shake violently. Then everyone saw that the ground was tearing open. Everyone couldn't help but look at Chen Zhao. Chen Zhao grinned. His mouth had really been blessed before. What he was afraid of really came true. The cracked ground started spewing out terrifying lava. It wasn't like a small bridge or a small stream. Instead, it was like a mountain flood. It was already very dangerous at the start. The lava surged toward everyone. Chen Zhao shook his head and lifted a hand. Dark magma spread out from under his feet, blocking the surging magma. The lava wasn't much of a threat to Chen Zhao. It could even be said to be non-threatening. Even if the lava drowned the entire island, it would be useless. Marcia was shocked. She'd thought that they were going to die. After all, this was a natural disaster, the most terrifying one at that. It was definitely the most destructive of all natural disasters. She didn't expect Chen Zhao to be able to block it. Just then, the sky suddenly darkened. A huge shadow flashed past. Everyone raised their heads to look at the sky. Then came a second giant shadow, the third, the fourth. More and more shadows loomed over the island. Feathered serpent god. Everyone's expression changed. As spiritualists, they had all heard of the god that the natives of the American continent had once worshipped, the feathered serpent god. They had the bodies of snakes and the wings of birds. Their bodies were so huge that they could blot out the sky. They drive storms and lightning and fire. And every time they appeared, it represented the beginning of a bloody battle. This was because every time they were summoned, it was either to slaughter enemies or to offer a large number of sacrifices. They were cruel, greedy, and bloodthirsty. Their wings were of different colors. Some were as blue as the sea, some were as white as snow, and some were as red as blood. The color also represented their attributes and power. No one had expected that there would be so many feathered serpent gods here. Perhaps this was the home of the feathered serpent god. He then thought about the beliefs of the American continent. The existence of that weak point was understandable. It was because they were too close to Earth, so much so that they could be easily summoned. But it wasn't a good sign to see them here. Their bodies and wings were simply too huge. Each feathered serpent god was like an ancient giant beast. The smallest was 100 meters long, while the largest was more than 1,000 meters. So troublesome. Chun Zhao cursed in his heart. He'd originally planned to leave with Jalanash and the others. He didn't plan on doing anything big, but the appearance of the feathered serpent god made Chun Zhao give up on this plan. These feathered serpent gods weren't ordinary creatures. More accurately, they represented the will of the world. Now, the will of the world wanted to kill them with all its might. It was probably because of Chun Zhao's appearance that the will of the world wanted to kill them at all costs. Jalanash, how's your recovery? What do you need me to do? Bring them to higher ground, Chun Zhao said. Once we fight those things in the sky, I won't be able to protect you. Don't worry, President. Are you crazy? Those are the feathered serpent gods, the legendary Mayan gods. Regardless of whether they are real gods or not, it is enough to show how powerful they are. We have no chance of winning if we fight them. Those are not the projections that you have encountered before. These are the real feathered serpent gods, Masuria shouted. Also, didn't you see the number? Chun Zhao glanced at her. What else? Negotiate with them? Or hide in the forest and pray that they won't see us? Marcia didn't know what to do either, but she felt that fighting the feathered serpent gods was definitely the wrong choice. Just then, the sky was completely covered by a shadow. An incomparably huge feathered serpent god covered the sun. Huge. Unbelievably huge. Its body was almost 1/3 the size of an island. Did you see that? That posture is perfect. Marcia was so shocked that she started spouting nonsense. Red and blue wings, a snake crown on its head, and even a horn. It seemed to be the king of the feathered serpent gods. All the feathered serpent gods surrounded it, welcoming the arrival of their king. Even Jalanash and the others were shocked by the beast's posture. That's the greatest enemy I've ever faced. Chun Zhao was astonished. Our warehouse can't seem to fit all of them, Donya Tianchi exclaimed. By the way, if the president beats a feathered serpent god half to death and we kill it, will that count as killing a god? Stop joking. Let's escape first. At least we won't be a burden to the president. Jalanash was the captain, after all. She naturally had to act like one. In the past, no matter what kind of enemy it was, she would definitely charge forward first. But ever since she became the captain, her first responsibility wasn't to complete the mission or defeat the enemy. Instead, it was to ensure the safety of her teammates. Marcia really admired these people. Even in the face of disaster, they could still use jokes to resolve the desperate atmosphere. Marcia didn't have any hope that Chun Zhao could defeat the feathered serpent gods. Not to mention this huge wave, even a single one would be quite difficult to deal with. Chapter 29:10. Marcia looked back at Chun Zhao. Chun Zhao was still standing there. Not long after Jalanash ran away, magma suddenly surged in from all directions like a dam had collapsed. Marcia looked and saw that Chun Zhao was still standing there. The magma was about to reach him. He still didn't move. Jalanash, your president is still there. Is he crazy? Ignore him, Jalanash said with certainty. Marcia looked back again and saw that Chun Zhao had already started soaking his feet. The magma had already reached his thighs. Marcia still asked hesitantly, "Are you sure it's okay for him to do that?" "No problem. You didn't even look back at your president." "Fine. Looks like you've given up on him." As soon as Marcia finished speaking, Chun Zhao shot into the sky. At the same time, he shot into the sky with a huge amount of magma. The magma turned into a red pillar and pierced through a serpent god in the sky. The serpent god was almost 1,000 meters long. It had white wings and could control the power of storms. But it didn't even have time to understand what was going on. The scorching magma dragged it to the ground. Its huge body crashed into the ground. Marcia stopped running. She watched everything behind her with her mouth open, dumbfounded. The white-winged serpent god wasn't completely dead. It was still struggling. But the next moment, a figure descended from the sky and landed on the serpent god's neck. Crack! The serpent god didn't move. It looked completely cold, but it wouldn't be cold for long. The magma was about to cook it. After cutting off the serpent god's neck, Chun Zhao looked around. Because of the hostility from this world, Chun Zhao couldn't recover his magic. Chun Zhao glanced at the serpent god. It seemed that he still had to devour it. The dark magma instantly wrapped around the serpent god. Even its severed head was retrieved in a few seconds. But just then, Chun Zhao suddenly felt that when he was devouring the serpent god, he seemed to have devoured something too, but the feeling was very vague. Chun Zhao couldn't figure it out. At the same time, the other serpent gods also attacked. The entire sky turned into a riot of colors. Storms, lightning, hail, tsunamis, and meteors turned the entire sky into a gorgeous picture. These were all feathered serpent gods' ultimate moves. They carried the will of the world and were fighting for it. Therefore, they did not need to consider consumption at all. They could squander their power as they pleased. With so many big moves, this island could basically be flattened. Chun Zhao rose into the air and let the big moves deal with him. Of course, big moves like tsunamis and earthquakes were basically used for jokes. The area of effect was not bad, and it was a strategic level ultimate move. But using it for a duel was just thinking too much. Was he hoping to kill the other party with a jolt? As for the lightning, wind, rain, and meteorites, they were basically leftovers. In short, none of them were good enough. However, the largest feathered serpent god didn't move. It still spread its wings and looked down at Chun Zhao. Chun Zhao's eyes glinted fiercely. I hate this kind of condescending look the most. I'll kill you. Chun Zhao's voice wasn't loud, but Quetzalcoatl still heard it. Of course, it wasn't listening. It was sensing Chun Zhao's intentions. At their level, they basically played with the flow of consciousness. Quetzalcoatl spread its wings to the maximum. Instantly, its aura increased by more than 10 times. A fireball appeared above its head. It was a very ordinary fireball. Apart from being big, there was nothing special about it. How big was it exactly? It was about 100 times bigger than Quetzalcoatl. It was only dozens of times bigger than the island. It wasn't special at all. Chun Zhao was dumbfounded. Did this guy summon the sun? How was he supposed to fight it? Chun Zhao's main element was fire. He probably wasn't afraid of this. But if this thing exploded, it could probably sink an entire continent. Go! Chun Zhao didn't retreat. Instead, he charged into the huge fireball. Chun Zhao couldn't absorb the spiritual qi of the world, but that didn't mean he couldn't absorb the fire qi. After charging into the fireball, Chun Zhao's clothes were already burned to ashes. Suck. Suck as much as you can. Chun Zhao didn't care if he would explode. Theoretically, his inner world was endless. As expected, under Chun Zhao's crazy absorption, the fireball gradually shrank. Seeing this, the Quetzalcoatl realized that its ultimate move had weakened. It immediately activated its power, and the fireball expanded to its limit again. Chun Zhao devoured the fire qi like crazy. His body became heavier and heavier. Such a huge amount of fire qi was much bigger than when he was under Chogo Peak. No, it was much bigger. Although the inner world was endless, there was a limit to the body that carried the inner world. But Chun Zhao immediately activated the second tier of the primordial regression technique. Instantly, the pressure decreased. Chun Zhao looked inside his inner world. Right now, it had turned into a sea of fire. Chun Zhao had an idea. Since the fire qi had absorbed the fireball, could it condense into a fireball in his inner world? Could it condense into a fireball again in his inner world? Chun Zhao tried. When the fireball condensed to a certain size, it collapsed. Chun Zhao's usage of elemental magic stopped at the level of fireball. Explosion, which was more advanced than fireball, was already out of Chun Zhao's control. So, after a few tries, Chun Zhao stopped making fireballs in his inner world. However, Chun Zhao thought of another possibility. Nuclear fusion. The sun was an example of nuclear fusion. Because of the strong gravity, the helium in the sun could fuse. Chun Zhao tried again. This time, he compressed the fire qi. He didn't make fireballs anymore. He just compressed, and compressed. But now he didn't have enough fire qi. Absorb, I'll absorb again, I'll absorb again. The Quetzalcoatl saw that the fireball had shrunk again. Zhang Xian added without hesitation. In fact, its intelligence wasn't low. It had a rough idea of what was going on. However, it had the support of an entire world. So, it wasn't afraid of Chun Zhao at all. It wasn't afraid that Chun Zhao would die from absorbing the fire qi. It didn't even know if Chun Zhao would die. But it wasn't enough now. It seemed that it was possible to light the sun in his inner world. But it couldn't start nuclear fusion yet. It needed more fire qi. A little more, a little more. Just then, the core that Chun Zhao had condensed with fire qi in his inner world started spinning. It spun faster and faster. It started absorbing the fire qi on its own. When all the fire qi in his inner world was absorbed by the core, Chun Zhao realized that he didn't need to actively absorb anymore. His inner world automatically connected to the outer world and then absorbed the fire qi at an even faster speed. The big fireball was shrinking at an alarming speed. Chapter 29:11. Everyone lifted their heads and stared at the fireball in the sky in shock. The fireball had replaced the sun in the distance. The entire island and even the entire sea had turned red. The scorching heat had killed most of the nearby creatures. Even Jallanash's team and Ma Syria had to rely on Jallanash's ice magic to cool down and quench their thirst. The seawater even boiled. After the fireball in the sky continued to expand, it began to shrink rapidly. It shrank for a dozen seconds and then expanded again. Then it shrank again. It was like a heart beating continuously. Suddenly, pillars of fire sputtered out of the fireball and landed on the surrounding Quetzalcoatl. They were immediately dragged into the fireball, wailing. Seeing this, the Serpent King flapped its huge wings, trying to fan away the pillars of fire with the storm. Its move worked. The pillars of fire couldn't get close to the Serpent King at all. But then the entire fireball charged toward it. The Serpent King's body was huge, but in front of this huge fireball that it had created, it seemed insignificant. At this moment, it had lost control of the fireball. The Serpent King's body fused into the fireball, but it didn't lose its ability to fight. Even in the center of the fireball, it still had absolute power. It possessed the power of fire itself, and this fireball was also created by its power. The Serpent King's body burned with extremely hot flames. The temperature was even higher than the fireball. Chun Zhao was devouring the surrounding fire energy without restraint, and the serpent gods he dragged into the fireball. The more Chun Zhao devoured, the stronger the strange feeling became. Finally, he understood where it came from. It was the fragments of the world's intent. They'd fused into the serpent god's body and become a part of it. Now, these fragments of the world intent had been reassembled. Although it was still a fragment, it was at least a relatively large one. There were still thousands of serpent gods around, and the Serpent King before him. If he devoured them all, he might be able to form a complete world's intent. Right now, Chun Zhao's inner world and outer world were completely merged. They were perfect as one. The inner world connected to Chun Zhao's body, and the outer world connected to the outer world. Only now did Chun Zhao truly feel the world. In his inner world, a tiny fireball was hovering. It was still unstable and was still devouring the flame energy hungrily. At this moment, it was no longer devouring flame qi. This was because the entire fireball was completely under Chun Zhao's control. Since Chun Zhao could control it, it meant that this fireball's flame qi completely belonged to the smaller fireball in his inner world. At this moment, it was absorbing the spiritual energy of the world around it. No, it should be called devouring, full of aggression and predation. At this time, the seawater below began to recede. Many places began to run aground, exposing the shoals. Right now, Chun Zhao was plundering the foundation of this world. Just then, the feathered Serpent King's aura swelled again. It was obvious that the worlds had given Quetzalcoatl greater authority. This was something that could not be helped. If it didn't stop Chun Zhao, the world might be completely devoured by him. That was exactly what Chun Zhao wanted. Chun Zhao didn't just want to devour this world. It wanted to devour the world will as well. Of course, the main reason was that if Chun Zhao couldn't let the fireball in his inner world eat its fill and stabilize it completely. Then, when he returned to Earth, the fireball would continue devouring wildly. Chun Zhao couldn't guarantee that the worlds wouldn't kill a native like Chun Zhao, but he was sure that he would definitely be stuffed to death. Earth was much larger than this small world. He definitely couldn't devour Earth. Plus, Chun Zhao didn't want to cause a disaster on Earth. After all, devouring the foundation of a world wasn't the right way to go. The receding tide below was caused by Chun Zhao devouring the foundation of the world. To put it bluntly, this was a world war. Actually, this war had started long ago. But in the past, it was this world that invaded Earth. The feathered serpent god was the representative. They should be the son of the world of this world. They descended into the human world through their believers and devoured the living beings in a human world. Then, they fed back to the world. But now, Chun Zhao was the villain of this world, a demon king that destroyed the world. It was different from the last time when he was exiled. That time, Chun Zhao had at most destroyed it. He had killed many living beings, but the foundation of that world was still there. It was even more complete. But this time it was different. Chun Zhao was filled with malice toward this world. Everyone on the island realized that the surrounding trees were starting to wither. The lava stopped gushing out. They couldn't see the battle in the sky, except for the huge fireball and the feathered serpent god surrounding the fireball. Jalanash, are you sure your president is still alive? I can't see anything, but the feathered serpent gods haven't dispersed. They didn't attack us either, so he's clearly still alive. Also, I think he's doing well. What kind of bullshit logic was that? Marcia couldn't even complain, but she could only hope for that now. Otherwise, everyone would die together. Suddenly, something flew out of the fireball. It was huge. It was extremely huge. It was white and burning with flames. Boom! The thing landed before everyone. Everyone saw that it was a feathered serpent god without any flesh or blood. Only a skeleton was left, but the skeleton was burning with flames. He was dead through and through. It was really tragic. It had fought until only its skeleton was left. One by one, the skeleton of the feathered serpent god fell from the fireball. The fireball in the sky continued to pull in the lively Quetzalcoatl as it continued to spit out fireballs. 1, 2, 3. In just a few minutes, only a few kittens were left of the feathered serpent god in the sky. The other feathered serpent gods knew that things were bad and started fleeing. Oh no, Jinkira said, slapping his thigh. Did the president eat the biggest feathered serpent god too? That's a god. How many good swords can be made from their flesh? I need to soak in the blood of a god. Donya Tinshi's demon knife, white-faced ghost, also spoke. He was very satisfied with his current life, even though he couldn't control the knife wielders as easily as before. But now, he could soak in dragon blood whenever he wanted. His strength had increased tremendously. Now that the feathered serpent god was a god, he had to have a share. Chapter 29:12. Chun Zhao clenched his fists and stared at the gigantic Quetzalcoatl King. The Quetzalcoatl King was really nothing. Chun Zhao even felt that if he wanted to kill him, he would be able to do so under normal circumstances. But he wasn't facing the Quetzalcoatl King. He was facing the world's intent. In other words, Chun Zhao had to fight the world. Not only did Chun Zhao activate the fourth tier of the primordial regression technique, but he also took out the black trident. The moment Chun Zhao did so, the third old turtle's internal alchemy on the black trident suddenly lit up. Chun Zhao was stunned. The old turtle had said that every time his strength reached a certain level, he would activate an internal alchemy. After activating the third internal alchemy, the black trident became much heavier. Chun Zhao's inner world started supplying energy to the black trident. Chun Zhao felt that his inner world and outer world were about to merge with the black trident. The energy circled around the black trident and then flowed back into his inner world. At the same time, it also brought back the internal alchemy's immortal chi. The fireball was finally completely devoured by Chun Zhao. No matter how stupid the Quetzalcoatl King was, it knew that Chun Zhao was right. Even if it used its power to create more fireballs, it would just be food for Chun Zhao. But Chun Zhao didn't stop devouring. Every pore on his body was crazily taking in the spiritual chi of the world. The Quetzalcoatl king roared. For light balls appeared behind its huge head. They were red, blue, white, and gold. Even though they were a few thousand meters away, Chun Zhao could still feel the four light balls' attributes. They were fire, water, wind, and thunder. How many balls are there? Chun Zhao lifted his left hand. Dozens of small black balls appeared around him. The four balls behind the Quetzalcoatl king's head fused into one, becoming a colorful ball. The Quetzalcoatl king raised its head and bit down, swallowing the colorful ball. Then, the Quetzalcoatl king spat at Chun Zhao. A colorful beam of light shot toward Chun Zhao. Chun Zhao opened his eyes and immediately dodged the beam. The beam missed and shot into the sea dozens of kilometers away. Instantly, a terrifying energy spread out on the surface of the sea. Chun Zhao's teeth ached. Such power. Luckily, he wasn't hit. Otherwise, he would be in big trouble. Fuck. Chun Zhao also attacked. All the black balls shot towards Feathered Serpent God King. In the face of so many bullet-like small black balls, even the Feathered Serpent King could not withstand it. Each of the black balls could deal a certain amount of damage to the Feathered Serpent King. Of course, the damage was rather weak. To the Feathered Serpent King, it was like being pricked by a few needles. Chun Zhao threw a neutron star weighing 10 billion tons at the Feathered Serpent King. The Feathered Serpent King was no pushover. Sensing danger, it immediately released a huge amount of energy, and a colorful shield enveloped its entire body. However, the moment the neutron star lost control, the energy it released was still very shocking. The Feathered Serpent King's huge body was sent flying. Marcia saw the gigantic beast fall into the sea. At the same time, it set off monstrous waves. She didn't see Chun Zhao because he was quite high up in the ground. Ordinary people couldn't see it with their naked eyes. Only Jalanash could sense Chun Zhao's aura in the sky. Chun Zhao and the Feathered Serpent King's aura were as obvious as two stars. It was basically impossible to hide. The Feathered Serpent King was sent flying into the sea, but it was not injured. When the Feathered Serpent King charged out of the sea again, it brought billions of tons of seawater into the sky. Chun Zhao did not choose to fight it head-on. Instead, he continued to fly higher. Since he was going to be the enemy of the world, he had to do something big. While Chun Zhao was rising, he was also increasing his own weight. Almost every second, the weight that Chun Zhao's small world could carry increased by tens of millions of tons. However, Chun Zhao was in a battle. There was no time for him to use an ultimate move that needed half an hour to cast. Seeing Chun Zhao rise, the Feathered Serpent King thought that Chun Zhao was going to escape. It immediately chased after Chun Zhao. The Feathered Serpent was huge, but it was not slow at all. However, the distance between Chun Zhao and it was still increasing. But as time passed, Chun Zhao actually slowed down. He had no choice. After all, he was carrying billions of tons of air. It would be strange if he didn't slow down. Chun Zhao did not continue to rise, even though he still had power. But he felt that it was enough. Chun Zhao started to fall. Under the influence of gravity, the terrifying weight started falling straight down. The Feathered Serpent King was not stupid, but it was not very smart either. Seeing Chun Zhao fall, it opened its mouth to bite him. When it opened its mouth as wide as it could, it was just enough to envelop Chun Zhao and Chun Zhao's little world. However, the moment it entered its mouth, the Feathered Serpent King felt that something was wrong. Chun Zhao was carrying more than billions of tons. He gave the Feathered Serpent King an enema. The black trident in Chun Zhao's hand slashed down the Feathered Serpent King's internal cavity. Then he charged out of the Feathered Serpent King's body. The Feathered Serpent King's huge body was cut open, but Chun Zhao was still falling with an unstoppable momentum. Suddenly, Jalanash and the others saw an extreme white light appear on the sea in the distance. The white light traversed the entire sea. Everyone could not open their eyes from the blinding white light. The next moment, the ground began to shake. Then, the sky was covered by seawater. The waves were more than 10,000 meters high. Everyone's mouths were wide open, their faces full of shock. Even Jalanash was shocked beyond belief. Everyone felt that they were dead for sure. But just then, they realized that the place they were in suddenly lost all light. President, Jalanash realized that they were all wrapped up by the dark lava. Good, we made it. When Chun Zhao used his ultimate move, he had already predicted the consequences of the impact. Jalanash and the others were still on the island. If he used it, they would definitely not be able to escape. So, at the moment of impact, Chun Zhao used all his strength to rush to Jalanash to help them withstand the impact. Jalanash and the others felt the ground shake. It lasted for more than 10 minutes before it gradually stopped. Then, Chun Zhao put away the dark lava. Everyone could see the light of day again. However, the scene that greeted their eyes made everyone unable to close their mouths. Looking over, the seawater had disappeared. What was exposed wasn't mud, but cracked and burning plains. There was a meteor crater several kilometers wide in the distance. Everyone was shocked. The island they'd been on was gone too. The entire island had been flattened. President, you did this? It seems more powerful than I imagined, Chun Zhao said, scratching his head. Chapter 29:13. Is it over? Jalanash asked. Chun Zhao gazed into the distance. Not yet. The Serpent King's huge body was split in half. It fell before Chun Zhao. Run in that direction. The faster, the better, Chun Zhao said, pointing in a direction. What's over there? Is there anything harder to deal with than this monster? Jalanash looked at Chun Zhao, confused. Even when facing the Serpent King, Chun Zhao hadn't been so serious. But now, Chun Zhao's expression was unprecedentedly serious. Chun Zhao's dark lava started covering the Serpent King's body. Suddenly, a huge arm rose from the ground. The arm was as big as a pillar that could hold up the sky, piercing through the sky. Everyone's expression was filled with shock and disbelief. What's that? Chun Zhao was helpless. The world itself. But what confused Chun Zhao was that there didn't seem to be anything else after the arm. Moreover, the arm wasn't much stronger than the Serpent King. Thinking about it, Chun Zhao understood. The total energy of the world was definitely more than this. But it didn't mean that the world could use all its energy to deal with Chun Zhao. It's almost over after fighting it, Chun Zhao said. President, did you win? This was the first time Jalanash doubted Chun Zhao. She couldn't help it. The arm was too big. It should be fine. Chun Zhao wasn't sure. By now, Chun Zhao had completely devoured the Serpent King. Chun Zhao estimated that apart from the few that had run away, he devoured about 1/3 of the world's consciousness. Chun Zhao tried to merge the fragment into his inner world. As soon as the fragment of the world's will entered his inner world, it melted like snow in spring. Then, Chun Zhao suddenly felt the spiritual chi of the world that he couldn't sense before appear around him again. Chun Zhao discovered to his surprise that he had a strange sense of intimacy with the spiritual chi around him. Was it because of the fragment? That seemed possible. In other words, if he completely devoured the world's consciousness, the world would become his. Chun Zhao had originally thought of running if he couldn't win. Now, it seemed unnecessary. No matter what, he had to completely destroy the world. The heaven and earth spiritual chi in this world no longer rejected him. Moreover, the inner world was no longer filled with tyrannical and chaotic energy. Everything seemed to have returned to peace as order was born within the inner world. Chun Zhao's heart skipped a beat. To develop his inner world, he needed order. Chun Zhao suddenly understood many things. It happened in an instant. It could be said that he was enlightened or had an epiphany. In any case, it was something that he didn't understand before. Suddenly, he understood. Chun Zhao felt like he was a god, although it had yet to completely devour the will of this world. But Chun Zhao had already broken through. In other words, it was sublimation. Chun Zhao closed his eyes and sensed. There's an exit 3 kilometers away, he said. It's dozens of meters in the sky. Jalanash, take them there. Jalanash looked at Giant Arm President. If we can't win, we'll leave. Yes, I wasn't confident before, but now I am. Why? It's because of you guys you dragged me down. If anyone else had said this, Jalanash would have told them that the flowers were not red. But since Chun Zhao said this, she couldn't refute it all. Ignoring everything else, just the shock wave from the battle just now could make her evaporate. If not for Chun Zhao, they would have been evaporated many times. Of course, Jalanash had her own pride. She turned around and left without hesitation. That giant arm was waiting for Chun Zhao. It wasn't that it wanted to wait, but because it couldn't move at all. Chun Zhao wasn't in a hurry to get closer. He was just stalling for time. He had plenty of time, but it wasn't. That giant arm was formed by the power of the world's will. It couldn't last forever. Chun Zhao wanted to continue plundering the foundation of the world. He raised his arm high and darkness spewed out from his fingers. Dark lava rushed into the sky and merged with the dark clouds above. Then, the clouds turned into rain and fell. Black rainwater poured onto the scorching ground and then seeped into the ground. In the distance, the giant arm couldn't wait anymore. Clearly, it had also sensed Chun Zhao's intentions. The giant arm waved its palm and slammed it on the ground. It was a crude attack, but it was powerful. Like a super nuclear explosion, the shock wave swept over. Chun Zhao didn't move and let the shock wave hit him. It was powerful, but Chun Zhao was 100 kilometers away from the center of the shock wave. At this distance, no matter how powerful the shock wave was, it was like a spring breeze to Chun Zhao. Chun Zhao wasn't in a hurry at all. He had plenty of time to waste. He'd take most of the foundation of the world first before attacking. The dark lava seeped into the ground with the rainwater and plundered even faster. The foundation of the world was feeding back to Chun Zhao's inner world. It made Chun Zhao's inner world more perfect and substantial. The inner world fed back to Chun Zhao's real body and the outside world. So, the current situation was advantageous to Chun Zhao. Chun Zhao was constantly becoming stronger. On the other hand, the world's will was constantly weakening. Of course, it would take at least 3 to 5 years to completely devour the foundation of the world. So, Chun Zhao planned to fill his stomach first and then devour the world's will. As for the foundation of the world, he had plenty of time in the future. The world's will also knew about this. So it attacked again. The giant arm aimed at Chun Zhao, and a terrifying wave of energy burst out from the palm. It was a pillar of light, one that pierced through the entire ground. Of course, Chun Zhao chose to avoid the attack of the world's will. What a joke. It had the power of the entire world behind it. Although Chun Zhao couldn't use all at once, it would definitely be more than him. If he fought it head-on, the outcome would be terrible. Even though Chun Zhao thought that his body was indestructible, facing a power that far surpassed a nuclear bomb, he would still try to avoid it if he could. Chun Zhao flew into the air again. This time, Chun Zhao planned to use a big meteor. Because of the feathered Serpent King's interference earlier, Chun Zhao had to withdraw in a hurry. But not this time. The arm formed by the power of the worlds was very powerful. But what could it do with just one arm? If Chun Zhao went to the other side of the world, the arm would be scratching blindly. Chun Zhao planned to use a meteor with all his strength. Ever since he'd developed this move, this was the first time he'd used his full strength. It was the one that Chun Zhao had used on the demon lords in the meeting in hell. But Chun Zhao wasn't strong enough at that time, even though the destructive power was already very shocking. But this time, Chun Zhao really wanted to destroy the world. Chapter 29:14. After running for a while, Jalanash and the others suddenly felt uneasy. That indescribable feeling spread throughout their bodies. Everyone couldn't help but stop. They turned around and looked behind them. At this moment, they saw a bright star falling from the sky. Dragging a flaming tail, it landed where the giant arm was. Just then, dark lava suddenly seeped out from under their feet and started wrapping around them. Startled, Marcia was about to run when Jalanash shouted, "This is our president's spell. Don't resist. It's here to protect us." Marcia's panic was actually an instinctive reaction. She'd seen Chun Zhao's dark lava before. She just complained inwardly that Chun Zhao's spell was filled with evil and darkness, no matter how she looked at it. Soon, they were enveloped by the dark lava. But the impact this time was different from last time. Even the dark lava couldn't block the extremely dazzling light. They could still see the extreme white light through the dark lava. At the same time, they could also feel the dark lava bring them into the sky. Moreover, it was constantly increasing in height. When the dark lava let them go, they realized that it had lifted them 10,000 meters in the sky. Looking down from there, they saw a shocking scene. There was a huge crater in the distance. Looking over, their entire field of vision was covered by the crater. Actually, they weren't high enough. If they could fly higher, they could see an even more shocking scene. The meteor didn't just create a huge crater. The impact was still spreading all over the world. Of course, the world before them was half the diameter of Earth. It was only a bit bigger than the moon. Under Chun Zhao's full-powered attack, the impact spread all over the world. By now, the world had become a red planet. Chun Zhao stood at the center of the crater. The giant arm had already disintegrated at the moment of impact. Then it disintegrated into light fragments. They slowly rose into the sky around Chun Zhao. These were the fragments of the world's intent. Chun Zhao immediately controlled the small world to absorb the fragments. Larger and larger fragments of the world's intent fused into Chun Zhao's body. Gradually, he felt that his inner world was becoming more and more perfect. But when he absorbed enough fragments of the world's intent, Chun Zhao didn't feel any improvement. It seemed like the inner world needed enough fragments of the world's intent. Or rather, it should be called saturation. It did not have to be 100% world will. Chun Zhao was surprised. He had thought that he would need all the world intents. From the looks of it, the world will didn't necessarily want everything, but it would depend on its own needs. Chun Zhao also started to have a clear understanding of this world. This place was like Chun Zhao's outer world. Of course, it was the most basic kind of small world. He still couldn't have everything under his control like his own little world. He did not have the ability to be omniscient and omnipotent. There was still a huge gap between him and the legendary god of the JD Church. However, in this world, Chun Zhao was basically invincible. As long as his opponent wasn't a few levels higher than him, it was basically impossible to defeat him here. He could also feel that the foundation of the world was repairing itself. It wasn't completely destroyed by Chun Zhao's ultimate move. Chun Zhao's heart jumped. If that was the case, he could treat the world like a cow. Every time he came, he would absorb some of it and wait for it to repair itself. This was what a complete world should look like. It had perfect self-healing and circulation abilities. It was not like his inner world, which could only rely on absorption and devouring to grow. In other words, he had yet to truly transcend the enchanting realm. His inner world still needed to be perfected. It was still lacking, but he didn't know what it was missing. Chun Zhao glanced at the sky. Jalanash and the others had already descended under the protection of the dark lava. However, it did not fall to the ground. The ground was now filled with boiling lava and burning gas. Chun Zhao flew to where Jalanash and the others were. Let's go. We'll leave this place first. Jalanash and the others looked at the devastated land. In this battle, the seawater below had completely evaporated. One could imagine how tragic this battle was. It also made them realize how terrifying Chun Zhao was. If this had been played on Earth, it would have been impossible. It was estimated that the entire continental plate would sink. There was no need for too many people like Chun Zhao. Just two were enough to destroy the world. Actually, one was enough. The only difference was whether the world would be destroyed in one day or two. Of course, Chun Zhao didn't plan on destroying his home. Moreover, there was no second person like Chun Zhao in the world. Chun Zhao didn't dare to say that he was invincible. But in terms of destructive power, no one could compare to him. Even Old Zhang, Bifla, and 23rd Blood Mary together couldn't compare to 1/10 of Chun Zhao's power. Now, 23rd Blood Mary called herself the climate god. With her current divine body, she could probably create a superstorm. Apart from Chun Zhao, she had the greatest destructive power. When her divine body matured, she could probably create even greater disasters. As for Bifla and Zhang Tianyi, the two of them walked the path of pure magic. Even if it was a forbidden curse or a forbidden technique, wouldn't be able to create a super calamity. Marcia had already stopped talking. She felt that her previous thoughts were too childish. Or rather, her knowledge was too shallow. Defeating the feathered serpent god was nothing. That was fucking destroying the world, okay? We can go back after passing through, Chun Zhao said, standing in front of the cave. President, why are you guys leave the area first, Chun Zhao said. Jalanash seemed to feel some worry from Chun Zhao. President, what's wrong? Nothing. Chun Zhao shook his head. I'll block the spiritual qi at the exit so that the spiritual qi at the other end won't be chaotic. You have 30 minutes to bring them out. Got it. Jalanash didn't ask more. She would probably just be asking for trouble. Anyway, anything that could trouble Chun Zhao wasn't something he could solve. Chun Zhao wasn't sure if he would be judged as an alien by Earth's consciousness after devouring this world's consciousness. That would be a huge joke. Just like in this world, before devouring the world's consciousness, Chun Zhao would always be the world's enemy. He would enjoy the VIP treatment of natural and man-made disasters. If he returned to Earth and became the world's enemy too, what should he do? Devour Earth's consciousness too. Chapter 29:15. 30 minutes later, Chun Zhao prepared himself mentally. Who cares? If I really become the enemy of the world, I'll just fight. Chun Zhao didn't want to face it head-on, but he really couldn't make the decision. Chun Zhao dove into the hole. In an instant, he charged into the sky pit. Chun Zhao's entire body tensed up. He was prepared to become the enemy of the entire world. Chun Zhao didn't feel any hostility. Instead, he felt an affinity from the world. It was different from the affinity in the serpent god's world. The affinity in the serpent god's world came from belonging. Because the entire world of the serpent god's world was Chun Zhao's personal property. That was why he felt this affinity. But the affinity Chun Zhao felt was completely different. The next moment, Chun Zhao realized that the ground below him started shaking. The entire redwood forest was undulating. No way. It's giving me an affinity while trying to destroy me? Does the world's consciousness know how to sow discord? Chun Zhao was astonished. Chun Zhao could feel a destructive energy brewing under the redwood forest. The affinity between the world and the world didn't seem fake. Boom! A crack appeared in the ground, and a pillar of fire shot into the sky. What's going on? What's going on? Chun Zhao was still confused. Lava kept spewing out of the crack in the ground, shooting toward Chun Zhao. But could this thing hurt Chun Zhao? Was it a delivery boy? Lightning flashed in the rolling volcanic ash. In fact, volcanic ash was a very good conductor of thunderclouds. When most volcanoes erupted, the volcanic ash they spewed out would also become the largest thundercloud. Bolts of electricity followed the volcanic ash and hit Chun Zhao. Chun Zhao took a deep breath. The lightning didn't hurt him at all. Instead, he felt unprecedentedly comfortable. Just then, Chun Zhao sensed 3 familiar auras approaching him at an extremely fast speed. It was Zhang Tianyi, Bifla, and 23rd General. The 3 of them stopped when they reached the vicinity. Although Chun Zhao's body was hidden in the erupting lava, they could still feel his presence and location. Chun Zhao, what's with this lightning fire test? Zhang Tianyi asked telepathically. Lightning fire test. Chun Zhao was stunned. You said it's a heavenly test. Lightning fire tribulation? Chun Zhao was stunned. You said it's a heavenly tribulation? Nonsense, the power of cause and effect is so obvious. Didn't you feel it? Zhang Tianyi replied. Did you donate $10 billion to the Red Society? Why was it that the tribulation of lightning and fire was so powerful, but it didn't have any killing intent? Instead, it seems like I'm praising you. Chun Zhao also came to a realization. Yes, this lightning fire tribulation was indeed incomparably grand, but there was no killing intent. Instead, he was constantly giving him a feast. If this wasn't praise, then what was? Chun Zhao thought for a while and said, Wait until I pass the heavenly tribulation first. The volcano continued to erupt. However, after the eruption period, it wouldn't be as powerful as before. However, magma kept gushing out and igniting the nearby redwood trees. After that, dark clouds began to gather in the sky, followed by heavy rain. Soon, the forest fire was put out. Zhang Tianyi, Bifla, and 23rd Blood Mary all looked at him with burning eyes. Clearly, they could tell that Chun Zhao was different. Tell me, what happened? I just did something for Earth. I destroyed a potential enemy for Earth, Chun Zhao said shamelessly. It's the world where the feathered serpent god lives in. The world probably rewarded me for that. This was Chun Zhao's guess, but the heavenly tribulation was probably because his cultivation had reached a critical point. The heavenly tribulation wasn't to kill the otherworldlings. Instead, it was to test and refine him. Chun Zhao felt that after going through the tribulation of lightning and fire, his body had become more solid. It was like a heavenly weapon that had been tempered hundreds and thousands of times had been reforged again. It was even sharper. Feathered serpent god? I know. It's a magical beast from another world. They used to be the faith of this continent, but their actions have never been tolerated by the world's consciousness, Biflis said. I once killed a powerful feathered serpent god whose main body descended. My cultivation improved greatly after that, but I hadn't reached Shangqing realm yet. You killed a feathered serpent god before Shangqing realm? Chun Zhao exclaimed. Chun Zhao knew how strong those things were. The weakest was Shangqing realm. Bifla could actually kill a feathered serpent god before he reached Shangqing realm. This was enough to show how terrifying his strength was now. How many feathered serpent gods have you killed? With your cultivation, you can still grow. You must have killed many, right? Blood Mary, the 23rd generation, looked at Chun Zhao with shining eyes. Zhang Tianyi and Bifla were also eager to try. They roughly guessed that the feathered serpent god was probably the enemy of the world. If Chun Zhao killed them, it would be merit. Naturally, he would be rewarded by the world's consciousness. This method could also be used on Chun Zhao. Of course, they also guessed that with Chun Zhao's cultivation, he could also increase his realm through rewards. This meant that Chun Zhao had definitely killed more than a single digit. Do you want to kill the feathered serpent god too? Of course, you can't eat it alone. It's not that I want to eat it alone, Chun Zhao said awkwardly. I just ate it all at once. Not a single one left. That's not it. Chun Zhao tried to change the topic. I think I've figured out our future path. Of course, it's only limited to my current realm. I think that with my method, it shouldn't be a problem for me to bring you guys to keep up with my cultivation progress. As expected, everyone was attracted by Chun Zhao's words. What a joke. In the past, they were still exploring and exploring. But this time, Chun Zhao was actually so sure. This meant that Chun Zhao had gained a lot this time. Chun Zhao nodded. I figured out the specific method, but it's still a bit difficult. It's not the cultivation difficulty, but the conditions. Wait. I'm still some distance from the peak of Shangqing. Tell me first, how many feathered serpent gods did you keep? Bifla wasn't in a hurry to break through to Shangqing. After all, since Chun Zhao had shared it, he wouldn't run away. What he needed now was to increase his cultivation. First, he had to reach Zhang Tianyi's or Chun Zhao's realm. This was why he was even more concerned about this. Chun Zhao grinned. You can give up on this. This method won't work. Why? Bifla didn't want to give up. Yeah. Chun Zhao, how many are left? I won't fight with Bifla. I'll just let him have it, Zhang Tianyi said. Zhang Tianyi's cultivation was almost at the peak of Shangqing now. The 23rd generation Blood Mary had taken a different path and might not be able to enjoy the benefits of the world's rewards. Thus, the two weren't in a hurry. Bifla's path was similar to Chun Zhao's. He could definitely enjoy the benefits that Chun Zhao could. I destroyed that world, Chun Zhao said awkwardly. The number of Quetzalcoatlus left is probably in the single digits. I plan to keep the remaining ones as seeds. Chapter 29:16. Zhang Tianyi, Bifla, and 23rd Blood Mary looked at the scarred ground. They all looked at Chun Zhao speechlessly. Did you have to be so ruthless? They finally understood why Chun Zhao was rewarded by the world's consciousness. It probably had nothing to do with how many Quetzalcoatl he'd killed. It was most likely Chun Zhao who had destroyed their entire world. Actually, don't be discouraged. If I didn't do this, we wouldn't know our way. You want us to destroy the world? Not destroy the world, but find a world that's hostile to the human world. For example, this world gave birth to Quetzalcoatl and then went to our side to confuse humans and steal the foundation of a human world. This is a hostile world, Chun Zhao explained, and I devoured most of the world's consciousness. Now, I'm the master of this place. I merged the world's consciousness into my internal world and used this world's foundation to nourish it. That's why I broke through to enchanting. So that's how it is. Zhang Tianyi clapped his hands, looking enlightened. But it's not perfect yet. I feel like something's missing. It looks like I've broken through to enchanting, but I'm still missing a small step, Chun Zhao said, confused. I feel like you're very different from before. Why haven't you broken through completely? I don't know. I just feel like something's missing. I think this world isn't completely destroyed yet. Is it missing this? Why don't you give it a few more? Fuck off. If it's really missing, do you think I wouldn't know? Chun Zhao could feel that he didn't lack fragments of the world's consciousness. So, it was useless even if he absorbed more fragments. After the discussion was fruitless, they could only return to Earth. By the way, are there other worlds like Quetzalcoatl's world? Chun Zhao asked. Zhang Tianyi, Bifla, and 23rd Blood Mary all fell into deep thought. Probably. I'll go back and look. Zhang Tianyi probably thought of something, but he didn't say it, afraid that someone would steal it. Chun Zhao already had it, and looked like he was full. He didn't need to worry about whether Bifla would steal it. 23rd Blood Mary didn't walk the same path, so she could be excluded. However, Bifla had both strength and connections. It was highly likely that they would become competitors. Definitely couldn't say it in front of everyone. Bifla's eyes flickered, but he didn't reply. He must have thought of something. As for this world, it belonged to him now. Therefore, they would not receive any hostility from the world will. However, Chun Zhao would not allow them to mess around here. After all, this was his territory. It was like his home. No one would allow others to mess around in front of their home. Of course, Zhang Tianyi, Bifla, and the 23rd Blood Mary were quite obedient. If they were on Earth, they could fight with Chun Zhao for 3 days and 3 nights. Plus, the 3 of them had a vast amount of knowledge. Perhaps he would just throw out a seal. This was why Chun Zhao always kept his distance from the 3 of them. But this was Chun Zhao's territory, his real territory. Here, Chun Zhao represented the will of the world. No matter how powerful the 3 of them were, it was impossible for them to seal an entire world. When he returned to Earth, the sinkhole was already filled with magma. Of course, this was nothing to the 4 of them. Mary, did you get the method to build a divine kingdom from Ares? Zhang Tianyi asked. He's been so cooperative in the past, but he's just digging a hole, the 23rd Blood Mary said with a bitter smile. The 23rd Blood Mary said with a bitter smile, he just hopes that one of us can become a god. Of course, if that person is Chun Zhao, it will be the best result for him. Are there any flaws in what he said? Chun Zhao asked, frowning. That's not a problem, but he never told us how to build a god kingdom. That's the biggest problem. You can't figure out yourself. There's not enough time. The 23rd Blood Mary said helplessly, the divine authority of a god must be supported by a god's kingdom. Without a god's kingdom, it will gradually decline and eventually return to the heavens and earth. At first, I was like you. I thought the most troublesome step was over. Even if I didn't know how to build a god's kingdom, at least I had a lot of time to figure it out myself. But soon, I realized that my divine power and divine authority were declining. I went to see Ares once, and he told me the truth. If I didn't fulfill his requirements, then he wouldn't tell me how to build a god's kingdom. What are his conditions? Freedom and Milo Tanzik Williams. Then what will you trade? Chun Zhao looked at the 23rd Blood Mary. Ares and Milo Tanzik Williams were his personal spoils of war. Sharing them didn't mean that they could decide who Ares and Milo Tanzik Williams would belong to. I know a world that's like the Serpent God's world we just went to. It's a potential enemy of our world. I'll trade that world's information and the entrance. Zhang Tianyi and Bifla both looked up at Chun Zhao. They had it too, but they weren't sure if it could be used. He didn't expect the 23rd Blood Mary to use the information of an entire world to exchange with him. Of course, that world is very small. It might only be a quarter of the size of Serpent God's world. Fine, I'll leave Ares and Milo Tanzik Williams to you. As for how you trade with him, I don't care. When Chun Zhao returned to Los Angeles, he picked Fei Lai up. During dinner, the whole family gathered together. However, Chun Zhao realized that Blackie had been standing beside the table. Chun Zhao had been enduring the fact that a Grim Reaper was staring at his family while they were eating. It felt like everyone in the family was going to get a free lunch. Of course, it wasn't a good feeling. After a few bites, Chun Zhao went to his and Blackie's base. Blackie, why are you staring at my family when I'm eating? Chun Zhao asked, annoyed. Sorry, I just wanted to share some good news with you as soon as possible. Plus, your family can't see me, right? But I can, Chun Zhao said with a dark expression. What good news is it? Research. Our research. I've already gotten results. What research? Chun Zhao and Blackie had conducted many experiments. Most of them were forbidden. Immortality experiment. After combining the research data you brought back with our own research data, I found new inspiration. We've already gotten some results. That you're tuning in to the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.